Good evening, model railroaders, and welcome back to the Second Section podcast, where it's just regular folks talking about model railroading. I'm your host, Andy Dorsch, and joining me in the studio this evening is my co-host, Mike Ostertag. Mike, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing? It's been a long time.
It has. It's been a long time since Sunday.
Yeah, summer takes its toll on things. That's for sure.
And we have a familiar face joining us this evening.
We do.
We do from another model railroad podcast, Around the Layout, which I all recommend you check out. We have Ray Arnott joining us this evening. Welcome, Ray.
Hey, great to be here, guys. It's good to see you guys once again.
Yeah, I mean, we all spent a little time together down at the St. Louis RPM, didn't we?
Yeah, we sure did. Had a blast there. It was really good time. Awesome weather. I mean,
Right?
whoever ordered up the weather did an awesome job. It was absolutely beautiful, like 80s and kind of cool at night. Just absolutely perfect for all the events, both inside and out. It was really good.
Yeah, it was a spark from the year before. I tell you what, it was like I remember vividly that Friday night was 100 and some degrees out, and severe thunderstorms and tornadoes and all sorts of garbage going on right at the end of the show. And yeah, couldn't have asked for a better weekend this last weekend. That was for sure.
Yeah, it was a really, really good weather weekend for a railroad prototype modelers meet. And I had to say, it turned out, I thought the show attendance was going to be down just because of the amazing weather, but boy, I think they set a record there, almost 1,000 people. Is that?
Yeah, 950 was the official count. I know when I had talked to Lonnie about it, he was hoping for 900, so he got his wish and then some, 950. So I'm sure next year he's going to be shooting for that 1,000 mark, which will I'm sure will happen, because it just seems like I hear more and more people talk about the St. Louis RPM, and I know I'll be talking about it for a long time to come, because it really is. It's like just how laser focused it is on the hobby.
Yeah.
You know, I love other train shows, and yet, like I've talked before, you know, Amherst has a special place in my heart. It's in my backyard, but for this, just being so concentrate, and I love that young kids and, you know, strollers and everything get to go to train shows, but for this one, it was kind of nice not to have to navigate that world and just be able to have that. And then the camaraderie is almost unparalleled. Just how friendly folks were and how much they wanted to talk about it and share and, you know, introduce themselves, meet new people. It was really, really amazing.
Yeah, it was something else. I don't think I got to walk around the show by myself for more than, I don't know, a minute without, you know, striking up a conversation with someone. And it was, you know, especially when you went over by the model displays and some of the modelers were hanging around their work, and, you know, and then you just, hey, how did you do that? And then all of a sudden the floodgates open, and all of a sudden they're telling, and I wish I had a notepad, right? I had my phone, I was taking notes on my phone, but oh my goodness, like they were just telling you, I used this material, I did this, I did this, I did this. And it was, you know, just how they could produce such fine artwork, I guess I would call it, in various scales. They had everything there. They had N scale, O, S, HO. I mean, I didn't see much. I don't think I saw any Z, but they had some big scale stuff there too. So they covered the gambit, and the modeling was really, really good.
Isn't it amazing that in this hobby, when you find the folks like that who have done amazing things, and they keep absolutely no secrets. It's like, I am willing to tell you everything I know about what I did. It's just so refreshing. You know, there's a lot of other things out in life where people think that everything's a big secret and they got to keep it under the cuff kind of thing. Not these guys. They'll tell you everything. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, there was like this, I guess he didn't call it a module. He called it like a section. But there was like this, like a corner, but it was like it was an intersection, had a diamond across it, had working signals, had all that. And I started talking to him about it. And he's like, I got to flip it over and show you. It's like, no, you don't have to. No, I got to flip it over and I got to show you what the bottom side. It's like they're willing to go that extra
Dennis
mile.
Egger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Willing to go that extra mile to really show you every little bit of what they've done. And it was that the gentleman's name? Because I think
Dennis
it was.
Egger.
Yeah.
He is one of the premier modelers in this area, if not in the entire region. He's so humble and so willing to talk and show things, but he's always thinking it could be better.
Yeah.
And his layout is like a masterpiece. It really honestly is. I would, if you think that was cool, you should see his entire layout. It's awesome.
I can only imagine just based on that. And what was really cool to me, and then maybe it has to be for this, but something I really like, especially with dioramas and modules and stuff, is that to the edge modeling. Like it's been laser cut out of the world, right? It's got the thinnest, sharpest laser cut, and there's no top of the edge of the fascia. There's not, it goes right to the edge and done. And I just absolutely adore that type of modeling. And he was, again, like you said, his willingness to share. I mean, he talked to me about it for it must have been 25, 30 minutes on this just one area and how he did it. And it was amazing. And so many other people like that as well, that were just so outgoing, sharing information, talking about upcoming things. The vendors were fantastic. Great selection of vendors, all willing to talk about their new products and things that were going on. So what a great show. I got to figure out a way to get to St. Louis on a regular basis, because it was really, really good.
Yeah. And there's so much to do, so there's the show going on during the day. Then there was, layout tours and operating sessions going on at night. And then, if you wanted to kind of break out from the show, you're in St. Louis, right? It's a railroad hub in the United States. And you basically just turn, you couldn't swing a dead cat without, finding some train tracks, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly.
And it's like, I got to see, I think when we were there, the crew that I was hanging out with, we went and saw the Alton and Southern, and some of these short lines, it's just like, you couldn't believe it, and it was just crazy. Yeah, I think Randy and I pretty much drove around St. Louis, and he took me everywhere, and that was great. So tip of the cap to Randy for putting me on this last weekend. It was truly an incredible experience. And I tell you, you nailed it on the head, Ray, with being able to, like, we talked with Broadway Limited, and I don't want to let any of the cat out of the bag, but they were telling us, they're coming out with some passenger cars to get really excited about, some other locomotives, and they were just, they basically said, here's our pipeline of projects, and this is what we're doing. And to get that level or that, I guess, backstage or that behind the scenes access to vendors is really cool at these RPM type meets. And Chris was there too. Port Harbor was good, and then we saw, what was it, the Terminal Railroad? That was a lot of fun too.
Well, Chris and I both had the awesome opportunity to ride with Matthew Fricks, who lived in that area and actually worked in those ports. And his knowledge of St. Louis railroading is astounding, and knowing all the places to go and back roads to sneak in on, and all that really inside stuff to make the Railfanning experience really good. Although I will pick on him because we have that picture of us up on the viaduct, the village on the viaduct, as we heard over the radio. The crew said, "Hey, look up there, there's a village on the viaduct." So that's that was nickname, right? So but that was good. But he said, I suggested going up on that bridge, and he's like, "Oh no, you can't go up there." Yeah, you can. Let's go. And you guys went up there. We went up there, so that was great. Dave Appensano and Butch Eiler joined us quite a bit for the Railfanning, and then. There was just so much. I'm exhausted still. I really am.
Really?
I'm still trying to catch up because there was some late nights, and then getting up early in the morning. We got up real early on Saturday morning and did some rail fanning before we went to the show. That's when we ran into you guys as well. And
Yeah.
boy, it just it was a whirlwind, but we made the most of being in St. Louis. So it was a lot of fun doing that.
I tell you what, one of the things that I had some of the most fun with it was when we all went up to Kirkwood.
Oh yes.
I'll tell you what, first of all, props to the city of Kirkwood for doing what they've done down in that district that we were at where the depot is at. I mean, it's an incredible entertainment venue. With that being said, to the village of Kirkwood, city of Kirkwood, whatever, could you please not next year maybe have all the events on the same night at the same time? Because there was literally nowhere to park. I mean, I remember it was Bernard Helen. Bernard Helen came out and met us out there, and he was like, "Where do you park in this town?"
Yeah,
it's a good question. And we ended up parking right close to the depot and stuff like that. But a lot of fun. We got skunked, didn't we, Ray? We got skunked, but it was so much fun. So yeah,
there was 3 times more drones than trains going on at Kirkwood on that night. Because you had yours, Bernard brought his out, I had mine out. We had a lot of fun talking about that, and then our ride over was a lot of fun. I mean, we went to Sugar Fire with Tony Cook and Shane Mason and a crew, and then really cool. I wish I could have got my phone out fast enough, but I guess people believe me. You got to be my witness that I saw a P and W. So what we ducked down, right? We just got into St. Louis and we ducked down under an overpass, and sitting right on top of the overpass was a P&W rack. Couldn't have been framed up any better. Yep.
We had just come over the Mississippi River and making a left-hand turn to head towards away from downtown Kirkwood on I-55, and all of a sudden, you just turn and there's a P&W auto rack right over the top of the thing. And I'm sitting here going, oh, no, Ray is never going to let me live this down. And I'm in like 5 lanes of traffic. And I'm sitting here going, oh, man, this is it. And he's, I can't get my phone out fast enough, blah, blah, blah. Yep. So it's like, I mean, it was a lot of fun. That was so much laughing and that's one thing too that I take away from it is even at the show, there was so much happiness, I guess would be a good way. It was like the whole room. I don't think I saw anybody upset. I don't think I ever saw anybody just be grumbly or cranky or anything. It was just a good all-around vibe for the whole show. I thought it was really a lot of fun. And
isn't the way it's supposed to be? This is supposed to be fun, right? It's
right.
It was exactly that. We're having fun, aren't we? Yeah, it's and that between Kirkwood and any of the other spots, I mean, boy, just our trip from to there to Sugar Fire, and then from Sugar Fire to Kirkwood and back, you and I had just plenty of laughs to fill the whole weekend just in a few hours. But it was an absolute blast.
It was that trip out to Sugar Fire was absolutely interesting. Would be a very, very, very good way to describe it. It was an adventure. Yes. Let's say yes. It was definitely an adventure, and a weekend I'll never forget. It's awesome. It was so much fun. And then Andy, you and I on the way back. Andy came back with me. We shot up and we went over and shot the Iowa Interstate in Silvis, and we got found some things that are still left over at NRE, and we ended up where else did we go? We went to Rochelle for a little bit, caught a couple trains there, and then hightailed it back up to the big city of Ripon, Wisconsin, and I
made it back before curfew.
Made it back before curfew. I actually stopped the truck to kick Andy out this time, instead of just opening the door and letting him bounce out.
I didn't have to tuck and roll.
No tucking and roll in this.
Almost front door service this time. I'll get there.
Yeah.
So
Vic Smith. That was there was some pretty interesting stories about that too. So it was that was an amazing layout though.
Yeah.
It was a very, very, I mean, the detail, what it reminded me of Vic Smith's layout is very much, it was George Celios-esque, right? Very super high detail. Your eye just couldn't, stop looking at all the small things that were going on. And it's neat. We talk about, so many entryways and possibilities in our hobby and what you want to do. And I know I'm an operations guy, and I know you guys are into operations as well, but if you want a social aspect, you can't ask better than Vic Smith's, because you watch the trains, they're all set to run, and you hang out. It was a great hangout basement, had a little bar to it and plenty of seating, a little bit of lounge area with some sofas, and it was just really awesome. It really could be a cool place to hang out on a Saturday night, watch the trains go by, and just have a good time. So
yeah, it was awesome when we went there, and he fired up the thunder and lightning effects that he had on the cityscape, and oh my gosh,
yeah,
it was like a theater. It was crazy.
Yeah,
it was really good.
Yeah, that's one of the things. I think it was Josh Burton that was telling us about how he changes the people to fit the season. Is that what he was saying?
Wow.
Yeah, Christmas time he'll do special figures on the layout.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. It's really such a neat layout. I highly suggest if you get a chance.
Yeah, if you get it, area. Yep, if you get invited to that one, check it out.
Don't pass it up. Although at night we weren't sure if we were getting in the right house though. Mike was a little worried that we were going to get busted for trespassing, because we go to the house and it was like, are we sure we're at the? I mean, we counted house numbers at least 3 times. Yeah,
it was dark, and then all of a sudden there's like this rock thing in the corner of the patio in the front porch. All of a sudden we started hearing voices coming out of that. Oh, just come on in. And I'm like, where the hell is that coming from? And I'm like, oh, it must be
the woodwork
camera above us, and that was
Ray's like, well, he said come in, let's go.
Let's go. Although you noticed I let you go in first.
That was real nice. Thanks a lot, buddy. Yeah, that was awesome. Appreciate it.
Good. That's good work.
I'm no dummy here, Yeah. I'm far away from home. Let that guy go first.
No, it is. I mean, it was basically like a summer camp, for trains, and it was super awesome. So,
yep, definitely gonna be get out there again some way somehow. We're gonna get one of my local buddies. Hopefully, maybe we'll make a car trip out of it.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Even if it's an every other year thing, there, Ray. You got to try to, because every other year remember, they always change the theme. So every year the clinics are different. The clinics were really good. I was only able to go to the one, but from everything I talked to other guys, they were saying all the clinics were really well done. And the one that I went to was the one about weathering semi trailers. It was really, really cool.
Well, when you make the theme weathering and then you make your keynote Butch Eiler, you've done something very right, because Butch is absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
if you went over and saw his stuff, he is phenomenal, and that was great, and definitely look to see what they got up their sleeves for next year. Was they're going to hit 1,000 next year? That'll be neat to see.
I would be shocked if they didn't. I would be I mean, there would have to be some kind of national catastrophe going on, like another COVID or something.
Yeah,
100-degree heat.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, if they don't hit 1,000 next year, something is completely wrong with the hobby. I mean, it should absolutely hit that.
So overall, I'd have to say St. Louis, great show. The RPM, definitely worth checking out at some point. It's kind of like I equate it to the Amherst of RPMs a little bit. So at least that's my own skewed view of the world. So,
and I think this RPMs thing is gonna, I mean, I'm not saying take off, because it's already taken off, but I think you're gonna see it grow not only just in St. Louis, but we know Michelle Kempema is running one in Colorado. I know you guys, there's been some talks about doing something more up your way. I know there's been talks about a lot of them, and And I think for good reason. You know, when you see something like St. Louis and just how laser focused the whole thing is, how concentrated it is on the modeling, and you know, I think you're going to see a lot of people want to have an RPM in their area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
So we got a very, very interesting show this evening, and I am being graced here by two very good railroad photographers. So both Ray and Mike are really, at least in my opinion, humble opinion, are just outstanding railroad photographers. And tonight, the main topic of the show is we're going to talk about getting better at taking photos. And Ray's got a curated presentation for us this evening that we'll be going through. We'll also we'll also be talking about some of the stuff that Mike has done over the course of the years, how he took his first photos and how he's progressed since then. We'll talk about tips and techniques here, and equipment and stuff that you can do just, with ye old cell phones. So, and then we'll kind of take that and translate it to how do we get better at taking photos of our models. So, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna sit back, be quiet for a little bit, and Ray's gonna come on and we're gonna pepper him with questions and all sorts of good stuff here. So, Ray, when you wanna bring it up here, let me know.
I think
and we'll let
I think it's queued for you to share. There you go.
There we go.
Awesome. So let me preface, because boy, you've set the bar high with that introduction there, Andy, and I'm really hoping that Mike's going to be able to carry the outstanding part of this. But
I don't know, but your stuff is pretty good.
I know, right?
I want to share a little bit of what's been told to me by a former mentor before we go into any photos. And his name, he has since passed. His name was Joseph Belanger, and I met him when I was more concentrated on sports photography. And he lived in Belleville, Ontario. I never met him in person. I always talked to him online, but just became a really good friend, and obviously, mentorship of photography. He's a professional photographer, did sports. He did a bunch of other things as well. But we would talk photography and we talk philosophy. And the one thing he reminded me is he was also a professor, a college professor, and taught photography classes in college. And one of the classes, I guess university, right? For those in Canada, I think he called it university. So in the class, he told his students, I want you to print out your very best photo on 8x10 paper, and I want you to bring it in, and we're going to do a photo contest. So all the students printed out their photos, came into the class. They all set them on the desk up front. He said, okay. He put them up under his arm, and he said, come with me. Well, the classroom was on the 3rd floor, and they had one of these big openings, like this big staircase area. And he took all the photos, and he says, okay, whichever one hits the floor first is the winner. And he threw them over the ledge. And the point he was making in this silly demonstration, very Richard Feynman sounding kind of stuff, right, is photography is very subjective. What you like to somebody else likes to whatever. So there's a hundred of thousands of phenomenal photographers who have learned great technique, have this great eye for composition. But you may look at their photos and go, and you may like somebody that's not so well known. It's a very subjective art, just like railroading, just like scenery, just like all of that. It's all subjective. And just remember that, as you create, what may be great to you is not so great to them, or what's not so great to you may be a phenomenal photograph to somebody else. Just keep shooting, keep learning, learn what's passion for you. So I just want to kind of lead with that. I learned rail photography I shoot all of my stuff as a rail fan, and I shoot it not only for, obviously my own enjoyment, but I shoot it because I want to see the details. I'm not an artsy photographer. Probably that splash photo you see is probably as close to artsy as I've got, with the railroad crossing crossbucks in the left third, and that actually hangs up in my living room. My wife has been nice enough to let me print that in a larger thing in black and white, and it hangs there and decorates our living room. But I shoot stuff because I want to see all the details I'll miss as it goes by me at whatever track speed is. I want to be able to look and see the rivets. I want to see the brake hoses. I want to see the horns. I want to see all that kind of stuff. And that's how I shoot. So it's very much what I desire. Have I tried to do more scenery, better scenery? Sure. But as we know, it's not anything that we can set up. These wildlife photographers can sit in the woods for hours upon hours to get one shot, right?
Right.
But for us, it's all based on a schedule. Unless we go to a yard somewhere and we know something's going to be sitting for hours, then we can go, okay, is the sunlight good enough yet? Let me see. Okay, let me give it a little bit. But if it's out on mainline traffic, or if it's even, locals and they're moving, we take what we can get for the conditions that we have, and we make the best of it and the scenery that we get. So again, all about telling a story. You try to create a story within it if you can. Otherwise, again, just have fun with it, and don't get too wrapped up in it. So here we go. I'll tell you a little bit about how I got started. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Ray, do you find that? Have you found that over the years, like myself, I've always thought of myself as I just a roster shot guy. I've always loved just taking the roster shot, or like I never really got into the scenery part of it. Have you found that you're progressing a little more to where now you're mixing the both of them together? Like, you want to get the roster shot, like you said, you want to get that detail shot, you want to be able to see what you missed. I'm sure that in your collection, and this is not an inside joke, this is something dead serious. I am sure that you have hundreds, if not thousands, of photographs of 50-foot high-Q boxcars. So like me, I take as many. I when I was in St. Louis, I was taking more pictures of covered hoppers than I did trains.
Yeah.
Any covered hopper I could find, I would. As a matter of fact, and I hesitate to say this because I know the section crew is going to just jump on me for it. The one train we saw was it was a KCS train, and it had to have a half a dozen Sioux Line cars on it. And I'm like, they were all rusty. They look like they've been in fertilizer. They're like on their last legs. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take these pictures from my buddy Luke to show that, hey, these cars are still in service, and so just kind of as an homage to what he's been doing, I thought, well, I'll just take these Sioux Line cars. So I ended up taking, I don't know, all sorts of different pictures that I normally would not take. And do you find yourself like adjusting that? Say, okay, I got this picture now that I wanted to get. Now, what can I do with this a little different than out of normal?
Yeah, I think that my photography has developed a little bit. No pun intended there. That it's
nice.
Yes,
I like that.
We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, that's good.
But
that's well done. Well done.
I don't have any photos in this collection that have been developed, or I'm very fortunate to be in the digital age. But I believe I've grown as a photographer, that I start to look more at scenery. Am I that super high, artistic? Okay, I know the scene and studied the scene. No, I don't. And especially when you're in foreign land, like East St. Louis, I don't know the lay of the land, right? You're just dropped there by a Southwest jet, and now you're going around and, okay, this looks all right. I'll try to make the best of it. Okay, where's the light? I don't want to shoot into it. So, you make the most of it. And a lot of it comes out roster shot. But if you can include some stuff that kind of tells the story of where the locomotive is, or where the train is, or what it's doing, or what its purpose is, it certainly makes for a better photograph. It certainly makes you help remember it. Okay, I remember this area and this scene. But you'll see, as I go through this, you'll see, a lot of those shots become a little bit more photography. At least I hope so.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool, because I'm kind of in the same thing. Is like I'm trying harder to be more artistic with my photography, but that's only after I get the shot that I really want. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
So a lot of this started, and for those that know me or know me well enough, I wasn't really, I started as a kid, had, model railroad and whatnot, but I lived in a little town called Baltic, Connecticut. And then I moved to a town of Scotland when I was 5. There was no railroading. The line that went through both towns, the Willimantic branch, had been deactivated by Providence and Worcester. So I really didn't see a whole ton of trains. I saw a little bit of central Vermont when I'd go to work where my mom was at Benny's in Norwich on the line between New London, Connecticut, and eventually St. Albans, Vermont. Got to see the old green CV, but I was a kid and didn't really know. My railroading really started in I guess I would call it early 20s, when I was working in this area and started catching the New England Central and started, kind of, my railroad, although I model a lot that's P&W because I live in this town, my railroad really was the NECR. It was just something about the blue and golds and just a really cool look to them. And the GP38s, a lot of former GM&O GP38s in their mix. So this is what I started catching, point and shoot, not even knowing what I'm doing. I'm just throwing the camera in front of my face, looking at something and taking a picture. And now I look at it, that one with 3845 wouldn't have been too bad if I would have been able to get a little better angle at the feed mills behind it. And especially since the one in the distance is no longer in service, they've taken most of that down. So a little capture of history, even though it's not the greatest photograph. It's certainly not going to hang in any hall anywhere, but it's a capture of history. And of course the 3869, the red, white, and blue high nose for the former Southern GP38. I actually got to ride in that cab when it was switching in Manchester, Connecticut. So that one's a little special to me, and I have the model of it.
Those are kind of crazy, aren't they? Those high hood units are they're a little different cat, I tell you.
Yeah. And then what's cool about it was when I climbed in, they still had the NS sticker on the header inside. So it was it was authentic. It was a former NS, former Southern high hood. So it was super cool. And then, again, some travels around. I always try to find a way to make work kind of intertwined with railroading, and also, some travels. The Pickens down in South Carolina, those orange units. I just love those. It's such a
I am so jealous of that.
It's so simple, right? It's just a simple, cool looking. And I don't even put the whole thing, just put pick on the nose. And I think they're still banging around down in South Carolina. If anybody's down there and knows any different, let me know. But my grandparents moved out of that area, but seeing those was really cool. And then, some former D&H stuff that was still running. That was Kenwood Yard on the Port of Albany. And then the Buckingham branch was another accident. I stayed at a hotel somewhere in that area. I think it's somewhere in Virginia. And you had to sign a waiver when you went in and checked in at the hotel. And there's like, your room is right next to an active rail line. Is it okay? And I'm like, give me the pen. We're all set. That's cool. Right. Don't bother me. And then when I got up in the morning and that's, right in the early morning, they were going by and I just happened to just grab the camera. Of course, there's something in the way, probably a guy wire or something that's that white thing through it, but nonetheless caught it. So a lot of snapshots, a lot of, just kind of capturing stuff and, what I saw and be able to look at it again and again. And, so that was kind of the purpose of this. And I guess that's still kind of the purpose, to be able to, relive those memories and see that stuff. Memories of Selkirk when Selkirk was fun. So in New England, and it's funny because I'm in East St. Louis and I'm making comments to Matthew Fricks, like, now this is real railroading, because everything up here in New England feels like it's, like toy railroading. I'm not trying to offend anybody out of New England. It's just not the same. It's not this big railroading that you see out in the Midwest. It's, oh my goodness, it's 2 locomotives and 23 cars. Wow, look at that. And then you go out to St. Louis and it's just, massive trains, big power. But if you snuck up to Selkirk, which, just over the Hudson River or just south of Albany, was kind of our big spot. And it still kind of is. It's not nearly what it used to be, but there was an awesome bridge, kind of like where we were the village up on the viaduct. This
Oh,
was
yeah.
This was Ben's Bridge, and it was a 2-lane road. You barely had room to get out of the way, and you had to climb up to see those. It was like steel girders, and you had to pop your head over to see. But what you saw was this. Right by the engine, refueling was all there. You could see the sides of the engine repair facility on the other side, and you could watch the hump controller. It was right there. So it was
cool.
great vantage point. It no longer exists, as Greg Gay just indicated in the comment. It's long gone, and Railfanning Selkirk just isn't the same. You just have to, you can kind of get around the yard a little bit and see it, but it's just not nearly the same. So, but nonetheless, that was kind of a trip up to Selkirk. I sat up the road. There's a place called Voorheesville, and I pulled a camper up there, used it as a little therapy. I was going through some rough spots in my life. I put that lawn chair there for 2 days, and I just watched traffic roll in and out of Selkirk Yard, and just took pictures and shot some really bad videos, and had a really great time. And but yeah, that was my experience up there in Selkirk. And I still find ways during work. I got a customer that's right on the edge of Selkirk Yard, so I'll swing by and see what's going on, but not nearly the same as what it used to be. I got out of work, and you tell by the white stains on my shirt about how hot it was that day. I was sweating to death at work. On a Friday night, I said, you know what? I was a single guy, didn't have much going on. I said, I'm going to go take a ride. And this was up in Palmer, Mass. And the CSX 7323 was leading a eastbound train that was just stopped in Palmer. There was apparently a derailment up ahead, so they were going to be hung up for a while. And the crew walked across the street to get an ice cream. And as they were walking back, I was parked in this parking lot, and I just said, hey, what's going on? They're like, yeah, not much. And they said, you want to come up? I said, sure. So you never say no, right? You never, ever say no.
Right.
So I said, sure. And he, climb up inside, and they said, hey, have a seat. So I sat in the engineer's seat, and then probably asked about 1,000 questions, like I was, a little kid. And by that picture, it looks like I'm a little kid compared to now. Notice that there's some stuff going on up here, but
you just evolved.
Yeah, I've evolved. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know what that's evolution or not. But I asked him a question. He's like, oh, I was asking about like end of train detection. He's like, here, watch this. And he threw the reverser and forward and started moving it forward with me sitting in the seat. And he's like, here, watch. Okay. Now the end of the train's moving. I was like, holy crap. Just I got to sit there while all that was happening. And it was super cool. Took the slack out of the train. So, but yeah, it was a good time, just a neat experience. And of course I turned and had them take a picture, not realizing how dirty, messy I was. And I don't even care. There's a picture of me sitting in 7323, which I have modeled, and it's over on the diorama on the other side. I modeled the 7323 just so I'd have one.
So I have a question for you, Ray, before we, so this is back in the younger days, right?
Yeah.
Did you have top of the line equipment when you first got started out taking pictures?
Point and shoot. I didn't know. I didn't know how to afford it.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I didn't even know the difference, right? It was just like, okay, this is a camera.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know, and I really didn't know technique. I just knew, okay, these one seems to be coming out better than the other, but what's the real difference here?
Yeah.
I guess, when things, turn the corner, it's actually good timing that you said that. When I start to take a little bit better photographs.
Here we go.
I hope my wife's not watching. We're having our first child, right?
Famous last words.
No, right. There are no, you know what? This is perfectly legitimate. You are off the hook for everything, Ray.
Okay, good. Mike Ostertag says.
Yes,
so
I'll vouch for you. It's
all right. How's your couch out in Wisconsin? Because I might have to come out there and sleep on.
Yeah, we got a couple too.
We got a couple too. You're welcome anytime.
All right. So here we go. So I had bought a DSLR my buddy Dave Gardner had bought a DSLR. He liked his. He was doing a lot of sports photography with it. So I convinced my wife, let me buy a DSLR because we're going to want to take a lot of pictures of our kids. Right. So it was kind of her camera. And I say it with a big question mark at the end. But I was the one that figured out how to start using it. So it's sort of, and then I traded it in for a body that I have now. And then, so I don't know who still has owner. It's ours, right? Everything becomes ours when you get married, right? But
yeah,
right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of how that, so a smaller DSLR I'm a Nikon shooter. It was a D50-100. And I bought, had the stock lens with it, whatever came with the kit. Whatever it was, 4.5, 5.6, whatever the lens was, short lens. And I started using that more, and I started taking some photographs, and I knew I could see the difference, right? It's like, wow, this is so much better than my little point and shoot was. And it seems to be better than my iPhone, whatever the heck it was back then, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, whatever it was, right? So I said, this is starting to look better. But then I started asking some questions, and there's a phenomenal photographer who lives in my area, and I met him trackside many years ago, and his name's Tom Nanos. And if you don't know him, nanosphoto.com, I believe is his website. Just look it up, nanosphoto or photos.com. Phenomenal, very artsy photographer. Does tons of stuff with the Essex steam train, and he does night photography lessons and a whole event at the Connecticut Eastern Railroad Museum. Just a really great photographer. And I started asking questions, and I guess that's kind of, whether it be model railroading or photography, both, any of these hobbies, just start asking a ton of questions. And he was one of those guys that wasn't holding back a whole lot of secrets. So he was telling me, okay, here, try this or do this, or, next time shoot this, or, and he would mentor, which was really cool. And sometimes it's hard to hear when you think you got a great photo that it could be better. And again, remember, it's subjective, but there's guys that know, on the technical side, things that could be better with them. So I started taking some photos like this and started feeling a little better about myself, and things that have maybe a little bit of a story to them, crew. And I'll tell you one of my rules. I always try to, unless the crew is engaging with me, always shoot them from the back, just because I like to be nice to them and not identify them at work. I certainly know I wouldn't want to be photographed all the time at work, but nonetheless, a little bit of a story, get to see some stuff, and I'm just starting to get a better idea. And by the way, this is a layup. This is right in my neighborhood anyway. This is like literally 2 minutes from my house. So, and these are my favorite locomotives too, by the way, the ones on the left-hand side, the B40-8Ws, they're former ATSF wide cabs. They've got the gull wing cab to them. You get that little notch that's right here. Whoops. Maybe I can put my cursor right there. It calls it gull wing. It was done for
the P&W paints. The P&W paint scheme really looks good on those engines, and it really flows really well with the way that the body styling of those. Not a lot of paint schemes can look good on those, and that's one of them that really, really does.
Well, I know that, William Sampson has talked to me about the work he's done with the MNS and seeing like the difference in fonts and everything else. And it's neat that the many railroads are the same with that. You can see the P&W here. These are the only the two of them, the 4005 and 6, are the only ones that have those wing tips at the end of the P&W. You can see like down here at the bottom, see the P&W has got like an angled here.
Right.
And you can see it in this Jeep, that it's angled. They're the only ones that have that wingtip on the end of the P&W.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's just it's neat. And these are still, let's keep our fingers crossed, still in P&W paint. They have not dressed them up for Halloween like the rest of the G&W themed locomotives. So we still have the traditional theme P&W on them, and they're still out there running. So my favorite, just bold, just how bold they are, but yes, still 4 axles.
So the Genesee in Wyoming now owns the P&W.
Yeah, they purchased them and believe it was in 2016.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so it's a Genesee and Wyoming Railroad, and we'll get to some pictures that highlight that. Let me click over here and a little bit of travel. Here's a crew member that actually didn't mind having his picture taken. Pretty nice guy. These were all in Columbia, South Carolina. Me learning to get low a little bit on that 219, got down and shot up on it, made it look big and bold. That was kind of the starts of trying to figure things out a little bit. So this is, again, Columbia, South Carolina. Did some travel out of my grandparents' place in Anderson. So a couple CSX2, YN2 paint. So that was kind of cool to catch. Here's our not so beloved candy corn. The one thing that is cool though, it pops in the fall. Like you can see that orange against the fall colors. It really has a pop to it.
It's about the only good thing you can say about that paint scheme. I mean,
yeah, that's about it.
To preface that though, I mean, to backpedal from that, I mean, that doesn't mean anything about Genesee and Wyoming, the people that work there, nothing like that. It's just paint things for the railroad that you're at. Not everything.
The orange Borg.
Black. The orange Borg, yes.
It just strips individuality of railroads away, right? It's right. Like now it's like, the P&W had its own thing. Yeah. So anyway, this is right in my backyard as well. The one on the left, right behind me, they're shoving into vaporizer, that bagging ice melt. And then the one in the top right is in Plainfield, coming out of the Plainfield yard on what they call the Moose Up. And then the 4001 is right along the Thames River in Ledyard, Connecticut. So
that's so cool.
And then we go back to its original scheme and some pretty cool stuff. So now I'm starting to, wheel it in a little bit and got some really good light to work with and a neat spot. So this is in Sprague, Connecticut. This is the Willimantic branch. Remember I said I was growing up and the line was deactivated? Well, it's been reactivated. And here it is on that left-hand side, them heading to Willimantic with some gons and got the candy corn buried back just enough to hide it a little bit and get a good leader. And then you can see we've caught some good leaders, little elephant stuff going on up at the top, same place coming off the Moose Up. And then again, that middle one, you could see a Dewey Pile truck parked next to them, and that they're shoving in gaff shingles into Plainfield. They were hauling gaff shingles in those 60-foot high cubes. So that's what they're doing there. And then again, the Jeep's making a rare appearance. You really don't normally see them in Plainfield, but excuse me, a little bit of cold I brought back from St. Louis here.
That's the crud.
That's what it is.
It's the crud. So this is a really, really cool shot. Like just the one on the left. I mean, they're all great, but this one really is outstanding. I just like how, and Mike, this goes for you too. So like when you go out, and this is more to the rail fanning or the railroad side of things, do you plan your day, or do you just kind of sit, or do you just sit trackside and be like, well, if I see one, I see one? It's like, yeah.
I'll let Ray, because I bet you Ray's answer is completely different than my answer is.
Okay.
I think every answer may be different from Mike Ostertag's answers.
Mileage may vary, right?
Yes, for sure. No. Yes and no. It depends. Like this was actually unplanned. This wasn't really. I knew a spot. I had seen it. I knew they were coming. I said I probably could make this work, and I did it. But there's also times where I'll scout as well. So if I know there's an area I'd like to rail fan, or I've been rail fanning, I'll go on Google Maps. Like if I'm going to Texas, right? And I only have so many hours to go rail fan. So I'll get on Google Maps and I'll look at areas. I'll try to determine. I love dropping the little guy in places on roads and stuff, and then looking around to see what's around and what may or may not work. So yes, I do scouting. I do some planning. There's also times I just bring my camera with me and let's see what happens. And sometimes it's funny, like the most unplanned shots like this become, really great enough where, I hang it up on my own wall. And then there's other times where it's like, You know, if the best planning and then nothing happens, Kirkwood, Missouri, it's, you know, it's, it's, you know, it's those kinds of things, you know, you never know. And with the railroad, it's just, it could always be, you know, not what you planned, but yeah, I do put some research into it for sure.
And then as far as I go, I do things very similar to what Ray does. I mean, if I'm going to go out, if I'm going to go rail fanning, I'm going to go to a destination. I'm going to go, like, say I'm going to go up on Escanaba and Lake Superior, or if I'm going to go up on the Lake Superior and Ishpeming, up on the LS&I or something like that. If I'm going to go up north of Green Bay, I know I need to plan things because there's one train, there's multiple locations. I know the train's going to be going slow. If I'm going up on the LS&I, I know I have a friend of mine who works there as an engineer. I can call him, say, hey, when's the dock job working? When's the, you know, where moving, you know, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. I can get the intel ahead of time. Now, when I go on trips like St. Louis, I had a very, very, very specific agenda I would be, you know, that I wanted on my trip down. I was going here to get this, period, point blank. Everything else was kind of gravy. This was my point and purpose of getting down on my way. I didn't care that I was 3 hours or 2 hours out of my way, you know, to get there. It was the point that I had the time. I was by myself. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew how I wanted to shoot things, and it worked out really, really well. And I'll show, if I get an opportunity here, I'll show some of those photos too that I took. But it really is, like, I'll use a lot of electronics. Like, if I'm down on the CP, I'll use ATCS monitor, or the CN, I'll use ATCS monitor to, you know, and because at least they still use that, or they still have the ability to use that. The rest of the United States, BNSF, UP, CSX, NS, it's very spotty. The majority of those locations are dark now, which was, you know, so yeah.
So explain that, Mike, because I'm not sure exactly what that term is.
Okay, ATCS monitor is a program that basically allows you to see where trains are based off of radio signals given off by the towers and the signal boxes along the route, because it's an RF, because they have an RF, it's an RF monitor basically. So because it's an airwave signal, it gives off this RF, and then it can be, you can, just like anything else, you can monitor that and then see, well, a train is from here to here, it's here, it says this location. And I can pull one up here. Give me a second and I can pull up, like, if I lose you, I apologize. I'll pull up, well, let's see what's on the CP. Let's see what's going on the CP.
So this would be one of those, this would be a tool then that would help you essentially do some of this planning, right? So, you know, when we talk about
the problem with it, Andy, is that on Class 1 railroads, it's going away on a very fast, on a day-to-day basis. Like I said, a lot of the big Class 1s, BNSF, UP, CSX, NS, a lot of those are dark. I mean, they used to be able to monitor all sorts of different locations, and very popular, like Rochelle, Illinois. That used to be able, I'll sit right here and watch the camera from the train, the camera at the park, and watch ATCS monitors say, oh, there's a train coming. Okay, cool. Now that's dark. It's all done. You can't see anything in either direction anymore. And that's because they,
switched it up.
The railroads have, progressed. They've gone into a digital age. I'll see if I can get this to pull right up. Hopefully this will work, because we're live. It won't.
The only trick I've been using, what I do is I carry a radio with me, and then I've got one of the banks programmed to the EOT Fred frequencies. so that whatever that 900 whatever frequency, so at least you can kind of get a hint that they're coming, because you'll start
Yeah.
to hear the EOT squawk, and then you'll hear the locomotive, the two different distinct telemetry squawks, and then you'll hear, and then that gives you an idea. But that's not always that's not a foolproof plan, because there's times for some reason like it'll go by and then all of a sudden it'll go off. It's like it's not a perfect science of getting it, but it kind of gives you an idea, but certainly doesn't sound nearly as cool as what this used to be.
Okay, so I have ATCS monitor pulled up. I don't know how you want me to show this. You want me to just share?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see how this goes. We're going to get some back view here, because this is going to be a real pain, I think. Okay. All right. So you can see that now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this is the dispatcher screen. Now, this was mapped out by somebody else, and there are people that actually have these monitors and set up and host these monitors along the route. So if there's red, that's where a train is, or where a train is supposed to be. The green shows that it's been lined up by the dispatcher, and then you can see the green signals here are the direction. So you can just, it's very basic, but you have a train here at, let's see, where the heck is this? That is at, let's see here.
It's what, Rockland?
Toma Industry Lead, Rockland, like near Rockland. And
yeah, you're near Rockland.
Near Rockland. You have a train on Main 1 and a train on Main 2 and another train right here, all coming. So you have two. This is to the right is to the east, to the left is to the west. So down here is Milwaukee. This is the Plainville. Oh, this is Sparta. I'm sorry. This is at Sparta, Bangor, Raymore, east and west, Tunnel City, Monroe. This is Grand Crossing and La Crosse. So you can see that there's a ton of activity here. You see a train on the BNSF coming over here into the
this is
lacrosse
crazy.
yard.
Amazing.
You could see these things. And so what I will do is I'll actually set my computer up to not go to sleep, and will always be on. So then if I'm going down on the CP, this will be up on my computer, and I've got many of them. I'll put the C&M sub on the CP up. I'll put the Waukesha or the Fox or the Nina sub up on the CN, so I can see what's going on up there. And because I'm driving right past these. So, well, not the C&M, but C&M lets me know what's beyond this point here that way, down into Chicago. So I can see if I'm out here, my favorite location.
Wow.
I like to travel between Wyocena and Dodge West down to a location called Tamarack, and that includes Columbus is right here. That's the Amtrak stop. And so if you see blue like this, that means that it's like got a track block of something, like the section guys have it. They're doing something in there. So they might have something going on in here, or that this part of the main is locked out, so they can't use it right now. They might be inspecting something or have a problem or whatever. But yeah, you can see there's a train sitting here at the east end of Portage. You have all sorts of stuff. And so over the course of the day, this will or like every minute or minute and a half, it'll actually refresh. So if things move, we might see this red line. You might see this guy start going into this block, and this will tail off into something else. So, matter of fact, this was red a little while ago. Now it's not. Now he's just red right here. So you can see he's moved up.
Progressing in the system.
He's progressing close. Look at right here. Now you can see this BNSF train has moved into here. So now you can start to say, oh, I've got to I want to shoot at this location at Badger, and there's a train coming. He's at Raymore. Well, he's going to be here at 49 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. He's going to be here in like 15 minutes. Or 10 minutes. I better get going. So now I need to go and get myself set up, get my shot, do whatever. And then you just either wait for the next guy or
So
whatever.
it's a I mean, it's a dying tool, but a tool nonetheless that,
It's a dying
you know,
tool, but a tool nonetheless. Yeah.
yeah,
Just, you know, yeah, and it's really handy. I wish it was still happening around, but with satellite technology and digital technology, it's a dying thing. It won't be very long before the CP and the CN, I would think, would be uh, starting to go away with this. So I'm thankful that they're still doing it, but it's a very useful tool. So I mean that's something that I I've really come to rely on when I go and do my, because I don't really, the CP and the CN around us are the only ones that I
what else
really
we have.
that's about all we got. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, it's really um it helps. It helps a lot. So
It's a lot
Let's-
like cheating, but we'll talk about cheating after because we talked
Yes,
about
we
that
gotta
over in
cheat.
Kirkwood about what cheating is, right?
Yeah.
It's
right.
only cheating until you have it, and then it's a great tool.
Yep, exactly.
So
All
a little
right.
bit more around my neighborhood there. Some little bit of snow shots. Again, a crew with his back turned. He did see this photo online and talked about how severely underdressed he was for the day. It was like a freak snowstorm in the middle of it, March or something like that. So he talked about how he didn't have any of his heavy clothes with him. You can see him in jeans doing, conductor work in the snow, switching out the Eosterman propane. That's what you see a lot of this of. Wide cabs, a little bit of snow on the ground here in New England. This one is not a drone. This one I took climbed up an embank or a bridge abutment that looked a lot like a staircase. So I said, "What an opportunity!" and climbed up there and took a picture of 2007 with a really aging P&W bridge. And then
That's
I tried to
awesome.
get a little artsy fartsy there with the bearing cover there and
I like
captured
it.
that on that. Yeah, it's just I figure I go for something a little bit, and Tom Nanos that I mentioned helped me a little bit with the black and white and a category I'm still not very versed in. Black and white is its own thing, and but he helped me out there and got that kind of close. So New England Central, back to the blue and gold that I love so much, but they got a lot of mix of stuff coming in. Some Royal America units that are still banging around, but I really enjoyed this Welcome to the Ledge shot where it was just kind of that open road below it. So
That's awesome.
capturing that stuff. More of my favorite wide cabs. I recreated the data plates are all gone off of them, so I recreated one and it was on. Because I have all the three of these models, including the one in candy corn. Sorry, Don. But I had a case to carry them because I was a member of a club, and I made this decal to put on the case, the data plate for I think that was for 4005 by the serial number.
So, Ray, real quick, we do have a question here from Luke Robinson. So he says, question for the gents: what are your go-to favorite focal lengths for lenses?
Depends.
Yes.
Ooh, I love that. That's a good one.
So I have two bodies that I keep with me for what I call now ground cameras. We'll get to that. So I have a D7000 and a D7100. And on the D7000, I keep I'm trying to remember what the focal length is on it, but it's a short lens. We'll call it a short lens. And then on the D7100, I have my 70-200 f2.8. And I find it's kind of funny. Like I used to use the short lens all the time, but then I started shooting with the 70-200 f2.8. Now I seem to go to that camera all the time. Like I use that 70-200 f2.8 almost exclusively, which was bought really for sports camera. I bought that for doing sports photography, and now I use it mostly for all the rail photos.
I've got this handy dandy little number right here.
What's that?
It's a Canon T8i. I just got it here earlier in the year. And like Ray, I used to have multiple lenses that I would want to do. I had like what was it, like an 18 to 55 or was something like that, and then I had a 55 to 300 or something along those lines. And I went ahead and I bought a Tamron 18 to 400 lens, and I tell you what, this is one of the best investments I've ever made as far as my camera gear goes. This lens it's replaced both of those. I never take this off of this camera body. Ray actually got it. Yeah. Speaking of cheating, so it's kind of funny because I'll sit here and I'll be like this, and and then I can go and zoom in and do all these other things, and otherwise I would have had to have changed lenses to get different focal things going on, and now I have it all in one, and it's the glass in this is really, really good. And that's one thing too. If you're gonna do these things, right? And Ray, I know you'll agree with this. The glass and the quality, your camera body, it needs to do certain things. Yes, you need that. But your photography and your photos are coming from the lens. If you don't have a good lens and good glass, you're going to be able to take good photos, but the quality of those, the crispness of things and the speed of things, because I think, Ray, your camera one lens is much faster than mine is, because this is only a 3.5 to 6.3 for an f-stop.
Yeah, so, mine are 2.8s, but I don't shoot trains in 2.8. I shoot trains starting at f8 and work my way out, up and down depending on light. And I want to clarify on good glass. Good glass doesn't necessarily mean you have to go out and buy Canon or Nikon or glass.
No, absolutely not.
There is nothing wrong with a Tamron lens. I shoot Sigma glass.
Sigma is really good.
Yeah, there's some others as well. Shooting your budget. And listen, there are phenomenal photographers that could take my iPhone SE and come up with amazing. It's about light. It's about exposure. It's not the tools, and better tools make it easier to do the job. I'm sure you can probably come up with some better results and better photographers, better results, but you don't have to go crazy. Don't go out and buy the craziest top of the line camera. You can work within a budget and learn to take good photographs.
I was just looking online for the models that you guys were talking about, and you can get the base or the body used on eBay. For
that's
really
good.
Good.
Mine was good.
Really good deal.
And remember, mine's a crop sensor too. So with crop sensor, my 70 to 200 is actually, I forgot what the range is. It's not 70 to 200. It's like 60 or something to 3 or to 3 or something. But nonetheless, I think
that's what mine is too. I think that's what mine is too, right? Ray, mine would be. It's not full frame, right? I don't think mine's
it's probably CMOS crop sensor. Yep.
Yeah. And I follow a guy on YouTube. His name's Simon D'Entremont. Have you ever heard of him, Ray? He's a wildlife photographer. Some of the lenses he pulls out, I looked up one of them one time. It's a $15,000 lens.
Yeah.
Well, of course you're going to get amazing photos with that. Yeah, I mean that's
well, let's hope so.
I would hope. So. but then again, you can have the best equipment in the world, but you can still take crappy photographs if you don't learn how to use the equipment. And I'm no expert. I learn all the time, and I've got an entire computer full of photography and shots that, if I would have known a little bit better how to do the settings, they would have been awesome photos. But now they're just photos that I would hesitate to even show anybody. They're just average, if even, and that's not the blurry and out of whatever. And that's how you learn, though, right? I mean, you learn by
doing, just like model railroading, right?
Yep.
Just do it. Scenic. You don't like it, get a scraper blade and scrape it up, or delete the photo. It's equivalent and shoot it again.
Yeah.
You'll get it
Yeah.
right eventually. Yep. So, by the way, the bottom on the right, that was taken in Worcester.
Worcester.
There they are again, my favorite wide cabs. I told the guys they just need to weld the couplers together and leave them together forever and ever, amen, because they just belong together. But nonetheless, that's here in Plainfield. New configuration in the yard. So this was fairly recent. They had a little crossover there. They now eliminated it, and the crews hate it. But I think you could pretty much do anything, and the crews would hate it.
Yeah.
This one's a little fun. This is Mass Coastal. They go over the Cape Cod Canal, and the fun
Garbage trains?
is
that the garbage trains?
They call it an energy train that goes to and from the base down there. And what's kind of fun is on that bridge you see nautical flags that spells Lobster Trap, which is the restaurant that's right next to the bridge. So a nautical flags, that's Lobster Trap. So yeah, so there's some little fun. That was on a work trip, and it just happened to catch them coming over and running light. That was kind of neat with the anchor and stuff that was right there. And you talk about planning. Sometimes you just take a look like that. You got a few minutes. Okay, let me take a look around. Don't put the camera up in front of your face. Just take a look around. What's kind of neat or kind of eye catching. And for me, it was that anchor. Just kind of catch that, put it in a third kind of thing, and comes out all right. And the bridge was a challenge, because how do you shoot that? It's like, how do you capture the massive the size of that goes over the canal and still get the train in it, and it's still a challenge. And I haven't mastered it. It's not a great photo.
When you did that one, Ray, when you did the one of the bridge, just my eye, were you kind of was there an issue with the sun location at your, is it coming from your left side on this one instead of directly from your back?
It could be. Yeah, it was time of day, or it was very much midday and very over top sun that less desirable. But again, it's they're not coming over. They're not going to say, hey, sun looks good, let's go over the bridge. It's like they come when they come, right?
Right.
It's only one train back and forth. They're not running that thing 10 times a day. It's you catch it when you catch it, you make the most of it, and maybe you catch it on a better day next time. So
yeah.
Another just catch on the road. I really like the fact I hate the power lines in this. They can never seem to get away from the damn power lines, but that was a catch up in Ware, Where, Ware, Massachusetts. Doing a local kind of cool, the old B&M scheme that they've incorporated really cool on the Mass Central. So little CSX. Now we get out to a little bit better rail traffic. 3031 they're leading, coming out of basically heading towards central New York, coming out of came out of Selkirk. It's heading somewhere towards Syracuse. A couple other ones up near Weedsport, Jordan, New York, rather. A couple out of Voorheesville. The one at the bottom is coming into Selkirk Yard, the YN2 leader. Excuse me again. Housatonic, real kind of cool railroad. Hopefully Mike covers them if you haven't already on a short line of the show. Because good.
We did, yeah.
The Housatonic is I catch every episode, but I don't seem to remember that one. The Housatonic, really cool railroad up in a lot of these locomotives are now gone. They're running a lot of Smurfs, GATX leases and stuff, because a lot of these are down, but I was fortunate enough to catch them while they were still running.
Super cool paint.
Some stuff. Yeah, really cool. That station burned.
What?
It burned
Really?
down in it, and they rebuilt. This is it rebuilt.
Oh,
they
awesome.
rebuilt it back to the standard of that station, which also had a diamond somewhere about mid or so train or so.
Yeah,
there was a diamond that came across the backside of that station, so it was like multi-line served out of that station.
That's cool.
Sorry, boys.
No, that's all right. So this, I just love the paint scheme.
Yeah.
This
very CNW, right?
Yeah. It looks like the CNW. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I'd love to model them. I wish somebody would make one of it, but I guess it's like an oddball. It's like a GP35M, and it's like I wouldn't even know how to customize it. Some people say like, oh, there's certain things about it. And I'm not one of those guys that could pick out every little detail and figure it out, but they are a cool looking locomotive. I don't know what I would do with it, but I'd love to own one of them.
Just running around.
Little capture. There's long lens there. That's the 7200 f28 lens catching NECR coming out of basically the fall jungle of Palmer heading south. Little trip to South Carolina, sat under a bridge in Clemson University. And I think that's the Piedmont line. Somebody from South Carolina might be able to correct me on that. But caught them coming across that bridge. You can kind of see the fishermen hanging out under the bridge. It's a little hard to see them there, but between the second and third pier from the left, you can see a fisherman in the lake there, fishing under that. So all that stuff. Kind of the honor of, I took this is BNSF in. Yep, there we go. That's exactly the story Mark tells him. I gave that picture to him. I took that. I couldn't ask for better light. I mean, it was just perfect, right on the nose. Just everything worked out, unplanned. I saw it coming, and it's funny. I go into CSX territory, and I'm cheering on foreign power. Then I'll go to BNSF, and I'm cheering on foreign power. Right? It's always like, come on, foreign power. So I got two things you'll hear me saying when I got a camera up in my face. I'll be like, all right, come on, foreign power, come on, foreign power. And then, or you'll hear me say, no Amtrak. No, not to pick on Amtrak, but I don't know. I've taken some Amtrak photos, but I want to see freight.
Right.
So, but nonetheless, I took this photo, and yes, you can see the matting that I made for it, and presented to Mark for his train room, but it was too nice for the train room, according to his wife, Susan, and she graciously allowed it to be hung in their dining room. So,
wow,
there it is. So,
That's
crude oil to Eddystone is hanging up in there. So,
it's
cool.
a beauty.
And I love that H2. I just like the H2 scheme, the cigar wrapper on the front and whatnot. So,
not the swoosher.
No.
Just like it's good they got rid of this boxcar logo too. Like boxcar on a locomotive doesn't look right to me. Just put CSX on it. So there's CSX blowing through a freak snowstorm out towards it was somewhere near Utica, New York. We'll call that close enough. It was fine, perfect, and all of a sudden the snow blew in. Maybe some lake effect or whatever came in and made for a pretty neat little scene there with that train. Said I do shoot some Amtrak stuff. Bottom right is Fonda, New York, and she caught that Amtrak going by the old courthouse in Fonda. And then the one that you see on the top right is the Mohawk River, Erie Canal in Amsterdam, New York. So
that's awesome.
Speaking of Mark's house, this is right down the street from Mark's house in Windham, Connecticut, going over the Shetucket River. My two wide cabs perfectly positioned together. Couplers welded together and pulling back towards Plainfield. Up to Swanton, caught the CN coming across out through
oh my goodness,
from Canada, going into St. Albans, New York. Good work trip. You know what's cool about this? If you look really, really close, we talked about before about bleeding through. If you look really close, that NECR sticker has a CV underneath it, and it's hard to see it in this, but in a bigger version, you can see the CV just kind of bleeding through. Then coming back through that Swanton sign.
I have a silly question.
Yeah.
Back to that last slide, Ray. So, was this just happenstance that this shot turned out the way that it did with the station sign in the foreground and then the train in the back, or did you kind of set this up?
Calculated. I knew I wanted to get the Swanton sign in there in the third. I probably could have done some things differently. Maybe I could have blurred the locomotive to try to bring attention to the sign, but both of them are seemingly decently in focus.
Yeah, they're both really well in focus.
Probably using a high F. I mean, it was a little dark. That's probably the effect that you're getting on the locomotive, but I think it's acceptable. Especially with the light on the track, you get a lot of neat effects here. And then of course the mill in the background kind of sets the tone, the area, the region of that, the snow, just tells you, Vermont kind of thing. And then of course the Swanton sign gets you exactly where you want to go. So yeah, that was calculated. Trying to get that in the third, rules of third, look that up and understand, a little bit of composition of, putting things in thirds in a photograph, and that kind of lined up. And I try to crop in my eye, but I'm not necessarily good at it. It's you want to set the frame so you don't do a whole ton of cropping, especially post. You want to try to get it as close as possible. I'm not always perfect. Part of my problem is eyeglasses. I use an eyepiece that actually has a foam pad on it, so that it actually won't. I can put my eyeglasses up against it, but it also gives a little bit of depth, so I have to look around inside the viewfinder. And I've tried to set the diopter so I don't have to you wear my glasses. I just can't do it. So, yep. Yeah. High F stop gives that burst effect. I actually had a piece of bad lens. Something happened with my glass and I had to have it repaired. And it was doing this weird Roman candle effect with lights. And even some other photographers I showed, they said, that is so weird. Instead of having that burst of light coming out, it was shooting straight up. It was so weird. So I don't know what I did to my glass.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah. I'll have to find the picture. I'll send it to you.
That?
I have no idea. So something must have been just slightly tweaked with the glass inside, and it wasn't right. And it would just reflect, but the light would go straight up like a Roman candle effect. It was very weird. So my first favorite locomotive actually made a visit to Plainfield, right to my neighborhood, which was kind of neat to see NECR. One of the benefits of G&W owning both of the railroads now. That was heading to Worcester for an inspection, but that GP38 was hanging out, so I got to take a picture of that right here in Plainfield. Some more stuff. This is a CSX River Line burned out factory that was once on it's on the banks of the Hudson River. Good little traffic for our area to be able to go and check out the river line. So Railfanning there. Then we talked about this, and Mike, I know you've got a Pan Am OCS capture story yourself.
Yeah.
But they parallel because I had no idea this was there either. I was in Portland, Maine, and this is the Rigby Yard in Portland, and it was just coming out of Portland Yard. And I had called on a couple customers, kind of a rainy day. You can see again, things are wet. And I came out of a customer and I said, I'm just going to take a peek around the corner. And lo and behold, what's sitting there? Boom. Par 1 is sitting right on the tracks there. So just a gift. And I was able to catch them coming out of Rigby Yard and heading out. I think they were heading north out of Rigby Yard. So caught the Pan Am Railways. I don't know what they're doing with these, if they're been scrapped or moved along or sold or what the hell the story is with that. But nonetheless, the Pan Am is no longer as it exists. So existed before. Wood chip train up in St. Albans. I'll try to get through some of these. A couple of trains coming out of Utica. Nice little roll going down the hill. Nice little fade in the heat of the day. You can see that in the stacks. French's Hollow Falls. If you're anywhere near French's Hollow Falls, is a place you need to go and check the traffic out.
That is awesome.
And there's improvements. I'd love to do this, and there's tools and ways to play. You got to catch the speed of the train. Of course, the train isn't sitting on that bridge. So you could do a couple things. You could try to catch the water in a stop frame and then blur the train going across. There's a lot of artistic stuff you could do with it, but I shoot as a rail fan. I want to see all those details, even from something like this. I want to see that it's a CSX. I want to see what the road number was. I want to, what model the locomotive was. So that's kind of the thought there. So that's French's Hollow Falls in New York. Anybody that's in the New England Northeast area, That's a great place to go check out and see. All right, so story time. I'll try to keep this one brief. It's kind of funny, Mike sharing that dispatch screen, because it kind of ties in with this story. So COVID time, I broke a whole lot of rules. I'm sorry. I have aging grandparents, and there's just no way I'm not going to go see them. So I drove down to South Carolina with my mom, and I went out to go rail fanning, and I scouted this spot out via Google Maps prior to going, and said, I'm going to go see this. Toccoa, Georgia. It's right on the Georgia-South Carolina border.
Wow.
And you can see the bridge way out in the distance, right? So that's the NS line. And I said, I'm going to try to get something going across that. Obviously, I took this picture with Google Maps because I didn't get a picture of it before. And these barriers weren't there. Everybody could park in this area. So I went in. I grabbed my 2 cameras. I wear both of them on a double harness. I got long lens on my right, short lens on the left. Don't know why I needed the short lens. It wasn't going to do me much good from this perspective, but I had them on nonetheless. And a truck pulls in. I can't remember if it's a white Explorer, but a big white SUV, nothing on the doors. And the guy starts setting up tripods, and he puts a camera on a tripod, 1 camera, tripod, 2 cameras, 3 cameras. And I'm like, wow, this guy's really into this stuff. And then he sets up a drone. And then I said, I'm going to go over and talk to this guy. So I walk over and I said, hey, I said, something big coming, something got going on. And he stuck his head in the passenger window, came back out, and he says, yep, you got whatever the train number was over here. And the next one is holding. They're waiting for them to pass. Then they'll take the bridge. So you got 2 trains in the area. I said, oh, cool. I said, where did you get that from? He goes, dispatch screen. I'm like, dispatch screen? What app is that? On the phone. He's like, no, it's the NS dispatch screen. My name's Casey Thomas, and I'm the official photographer of NS. I'm the company photographer. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I didn't even know that job existed, right? Like, he's, they get to, go around, take photos of NS stuff as a job. So anyway, he's setting up, and you can see it's hard to tell where the water is, and I don't know what the exact measurement is. I guess it's 10 to 15 feet down. There's big rock and riffraff that's holding the shore retention stuff. You can kind of see it in the far distance here, but it's steep. But there was a rock that was sticking out somewhere here in the grass, or maybe a little farther down or a little bit farther up here. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to take 1 step down, and I'm going to sit on the rock to get a little bit lower perspective. Now think about this. Let's talk about how dumb I am, right? What difference would it have made from there at, I'm 6'1", so let's call it, almost, 5.5 feet high, or 5.5 feet lower at that distance. What difference would it have made in that photograph? About that much, right? But for some reason, I felt I had to step down. So I took the first step, both cameras swing forward, I slip, and I go down that entire embankment, 10, 15 feet down. And I'm hitting everything on the way down. Somehow by some miracle, no broken glass, no broken bones. I'm banged up. I got a lot of scratches, a lot of cuts on me, but I land on the edge of the water. So my glasses are in the water. The scanner radio I had hooked to me is laying in the water. The cameras are there somewhere. And I hear Casey yell, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, get your shot." So I'm laying completely on my side, watching that train go over the bridge. So here's, again, how many pictures do I have of that? None. I came out of there nothing. And I also came out of there, warning, this may be a graphic for some people, I actually came out with a nasty puncture wound on my leg. So if anybody ever sees me and wonder why there's a puck on my leg, like this weird area, yeah, that's from me. You can even see on my sneakers, see the holes, like kind of on the edge. That was the rocks, me going down, dragging my leg the entire time.
Oh no!
Needless to say, a little bit of rail fanning rules and some new rules, right? If you're 1,000 miles from home, these are not the stunts to pull, right? It's just, right? You stay safe. You don't do stupid stuff, right? And so what this led to was a realization. And we talked about your screen and about cheating. And I used to think that drones were cheating until I got one. And then I realized how much safer it is to send a drone out there to take that photo than it is for Ray to try to take one step down and fall down a damn embankment. And I'm very thankful. We can make light and laugh about it now, but it could have been very bad, hit my head or anything else. And thankfully, again, cameras, they've got some scrapes on them. They've got war wounds on them now, but I didn't break or screw up any glass. Very thankful. My leg will never be the same, but my days of leg modeling were long gone before this happened. So it's not really much of a problem. So, there's the wound. So let's start flying a little bit. So after learning a little bit about the aircraft and what to do with it, of course, I take some layup shots. This is Plainfield, Connecticut, and the PNW yard. So fly over there where I can see it and learn the aircraft and learn how to position. And Mike can attest to this, being a guy that has a drone. It's interesting to learn the third dimension, right? You learn all these rules on the ground, right? You get all these rules of thirds and then everything. Now add a third dimension, which is altitude, and then learning where altitude works, what doesn't work. It's kind of learning to photograph all over again with a drone. But again, more stuff in my neighborhood. My house is located on the 2nd Street back in this neighborhood in Plainfield, Connecticut. So this is a layup for me. Again, to drop the drone in, fly it. I can still maintain visual line of sight on it and take a photograph. This is, I think it was NR4 or something heading towards, maybe it was NR2, maybe the night job heading down towards Cedar Hill Yard in New Haven. Another one, nice shots, just learning how to shoot. And then starting to get a better idea. So this is Rotterdam Junction in New York, going over the Erie Canal, Mohawk River, and just learning how to fly. And then I'll answer late night's question there that you put up. So yes, I have. So I got my Part 107 because my employer at the time would pay for it. I think having your 107 is a good idea if you ever plan on doing anything that may have a commercial aspect to it. For example, Joey, if you said to me, go shoot a building that you wanted to do, and I did it for you, and you compensated me by giving me, I don't know, a late night model railroad sticker. Technically it's compensation, and technically it was a commercial flight because it was done for anything but a recreational purpose. So this kind of keeps me in the clear by having the Part 107. And again, if anybody ever wanted to hire me to take photos or check out their roof or whatever, anything that isn't a recreational flight falls under Part 107, a commercial flight. So I went and got mine. So I've got that covered. And I don't know if it helps with getting waivers in areas that you need a waiver or Lance or whatever. But I have it, and it seems to work pretty well that way. So this was taken Deerfield Yard, SD60E leader. I had no idea until I got home that there was somebody in it. Like, I didn't see the arm until I got home and looked at the photograph because I'm looking at my screen and didn't see it. But yeah, that's an SD60E, and I flew up. I was under the bridge and used the drone, and then of course I used it for that shot as well as it was departing.
That is a beauty, Ray.
That's awesome.
That is a Jim dandy.
Yeah, well, I tell you, New England adds a lot to that. You start getting those fall colors, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It adds a whole new element. Mike and I were talking about sneaking it. You can sneak into places and get
right.
Planning that doesn't go so well. Got this one. This is Ringgold, Texas, and I had taken the drone up. My plan was to go to the Red River that separates Texas and Oklahoma. And I said, there's a bridge up there. I can see it on the map. Let me check it out. Well, when I got up there, I went, you're a little too far from home to send the drone that far in. It just didn't look right. Like, I'd have to weave kind of down a river and try to, it's like, no, that's that's beyond what I want to do right now. So I was going back, and then I started to hear the EOT squawk on the radio. I said, something is here. And I saw the distance, the headlight way in the distance. So I pulled into this farm, and I just put the drone up, and I just happened to catch it. It was just lack of planning, but just figured it out quick, got myself set, and took this photograph, which I'm really proud of. I got a bigger print of it here in my office.
That's a beauty.
Nice sunrise.
That's really,
color.
really cool.
Yeah.
And what's funny with drones is that I go back and forth. Like, if for every drone photo I take and I start flying, do some drone stuff, then I fall in love with my hand cameras again.
Yep.
It's like, then I go and take a hand. It's like, wow, this is really good. It's like, it's just a neat balance of playing back and forth between the drone and, and the hand camera. And this is, again, on the ground, some wild Texas sky going on there.
Yeah.
Justin, Texas. This is, if you know Justin Boots, this is Justin Seed right down the road from it in Texas. Again, awesome leader, H2. Saginaw, most posts, if you hear about Texas, they tell you go to Saginaw, big diamond there. That was where this was taken. EMD leader is kind of cool.
Is that in the morning or is that at night?
I think that was an evening shot. I think that was evening.
Lighting
I don't remember
really
being
cool.
there. This one's really cool. Santa Fe Station in Gainesville, Texas. Really neat town. A lot of grass area. But again, know where you are. Like, if you're a Yankee like me, think about what you're doing before you sit in the grass, and next thing you know, rat ants are biting the hell out of you. That was what I had to go through for this shot. It's like, I'm slapping myself like, wow, that really, and it's red ants. So yeah, you're not in Connecticut anymore there, Yankee.
You could almost write a field guide as to how not to do things, Ray.
Yeah, Ray's rules of railfanning.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
you should do that. Holy cow!
Yeah. There was one area in Texas, there was like tall grass, and I was going to go walk through it to go look at the signal. And I'm like, you dummy. Like, what rattlers in that grass, or what other animal that you've never seen before in your life could be their house right there. What are you doing? Who cares? Yep. And you own a drone, fly the drone over there and see what the signal is. So really cool when you get awesome crews like this crew here was super cool. And, posing obviously and waving and having a good time. Neat little railroad here. This is the Branford Steam. Runs from the Tilcon plant in Branford down to the shore, interchanges with the P&W Stone trains, and I believe they're loading and sending out on barge. I don't think they're unloading. I think they're loading, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. But nonetheless, they're moving stone, and that's what they do. And a bunch of Smurfs with a Tilcon sticker on it.
Those ditch light housings are really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Those angled ones.
Yeah, for sure. A little work trip down to just outside of Albertus on the Reading line. That was cool that it had a UP trailer on an NS unit right in the middle of a cornfield. Little rail fanning trip. My good buddy Joe Mame. He wanted to model the CNF in Fogelsberg. So we went down there with the drone and some ground cameras and shot a bunch of stuff for him. Shot the backdrop photos with the drone. I've used the drone to shoot backdrop photo for Don Iris. His Valley Falls was all shot with the drone. And it's cool because although it wasn't taken at elevation, it provides the perfect tripod that's very easy to move. Just keep flying to the left and kept taking photographs. And I brought them home and stitched them all together in Photoshop, had it in one piece, then broke it up so that he could print it. A little more Albertus SD60E. I'm really falling in love with the NS and those crescent cabs. I think it's really cool look to it. So P&W here, right here in Plainfield.
That's gorgeous.
Fall sky. Riverline, got to spend some time with Greg Gay and some other guys from the Torrington Area Model Railroads Club, and did some rail fanning out in New York. Really cool spot. Unit train going through. This was another accidental find. Saw the bat and kill out in New York using that D&H painted unit. So it's an Alco, right, Mike?
Yep.
You know, it's funny you say a lot of accidental finds, but you can't shoot them from the couch, right? You
No,
got to
you got to
get
get
up.
out. Yeah, you got to get out there. And
Right.
you know, I'm fortunate to have a job that travels. I'm a road salesman by trade, so
Mhm.
I've had a lot of great opportunity to bring cameras with me, and you know, I'll stop and take photos, and I will talk. I had a boss who was very much into it, so he was always asking me like, "Hey, what'd you shoot today?" And I'd share it with him. So he was always really supportive of it and whatnot. So, um, and again, here in Texas, you can actually see me flying it from the rental car. Texas is awesome, so super flat. You get to see a lot of stuff, but it's flat, but it's got that, you know, what do they call it? I can't think of the term, but that humpback kind of shape to it. I forgot, hogbacks or something they call it.
Yeah.
And
Oh
it, and
yeah, you're right.
it gets that shape to it when you get down low. N Scale Convention was in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Got an opportunity to fly the drone up and snap a picture here of
It's a cool
Well,
car.
yeah.
Kind of stormy skies looking there.
Yep, very stormy. It was very kind of crappy, but good. You know, sometimes let's talk weather because that's a good topic,
Mhm.
Mike. You know, I know you mentioned it. Some of the best time to go out and shoot is not necessarily when it's sunny out. That cloudy weather can be a blessing.
Yeah, my personal favorite is when you have that solid gray overcast day, because when you have those, shooting in the sun is awesome. It's fine. You know, you're going to get the most bang for your buck with color and all these things like that. But if you're looking to get an angle on something that you haven't been able to do before because of the sun, or you know, and you get one of those, especially like in the mid to late fall, where you just have that, you know, it's kind of like you look up in the sky and everything, you can't even discern the clouds away from, I mean, it just looks like somebody took a gray paint and just painted the whole sky gray. You look
Yep.
down, there's no shadows. Awesome opportunities to be able to get photos from angles that you wouldn't necessarily take because of the sun. So you want to get something, you don't have to worry about shadows, anything. Your colors on each side are going to look really similar. They're going to be very close enough to where you'll get that detail. And for me, a lot of time, if I'm going out and trying to get like shots of details of something, or a new perspective on something, that's kind of the type of day I'll actually look for. You know, so that's just a personal preference. So I mean, I know
Yeah.
everybody
Well,
wants the perfect cloud day and the perfect, you know, whatever, but
you can't order it up. You just take what you can get. And if you have a
Yeah.
cloudy day, don't be shy. And if it's rainy, drizzly, you know, sometimes the elements just make it tell a whole different story like that. You know, go back to Pan Am, you know, it was raining that
yeah.
day and boy, but they glossed everything up, made it shiny. It looked real cool that way. And
Yep.
Mhm.
the clouds are definitely a great diffuser.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that thing that Robert Petit just put up, Mark Lanuza from Chicago, he's the I don't know if he retired now or not, but he was the official photographer for Metra. And he has some photography of the Chicago area that would blow your mind. Obviously, he has access to a lot of locations that many people don't have access to, but it's one of those things where thunderstorms, snowstorms, that one that you had of that snowstorm, Ray, that was a phenomenal photo. I
Yeah.
love that shot. That's
Nice.
awesome. You know, don't let weather deter you from getting out and taking some really amazing photography. If you find an old depot someplace and you could set up where it's dry and you could set up under there, and if it's thundering, you just happen to get that right shot at the right time with lightning coming behind, you know, it
Yeah.
can be really, really cool.
You talk about access, and one thing that the drone opens up is exactly that too. So, you know, flying safe, flying where you should be flying, but I'd never get this shot out of the Allentown yard. And I
No.
had another picture I didn't share. There was a entire string of cars on the track that's farthest in the image to the right, down
Oh,
where I
wow.
was standing. So I couldn't see anything. All I could see was the drone in the air, and obviously my preview on my iPad that I fly it with. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I would just never get this shot. There's just no way without a drone. So the drone definitely opens up not only a third dimension, but it opens up areas that you'd never be able to see before. And yes, that is Allentown, Pennsylvania, the receiving yard, that side of it. And the old Lehigh Canal. Yep, very cool. How about some weathering?
Oh, jeez.
So this one I just happened to catch very quickly. Again, unplanned photograph. That thing came around like it was entering turn 3 at Daytona, and Ardent Mills up in Ayer, Mass, it has a loading loop, right? Big loop around. Basically, the premise of anybody's 4x8 layout. And he came around that thing and just flew, and I was just able to just quickly catch it, and you can tell it's been a while since it's been washed, but pretty cool looking switcher and good some weathering opportunity there. Ayer, Mass again. Talked about NS and kind of fall in love with NS and those crescent cabs. Another cool thing with the drone, you can get stuff like this. Now this is the opposite side, right? So this is where the swamp is, where the wires are. And I'm shooting from the dark side, right? You can see the shadows. So I'm shooting dark, but now I can fly the drone over, get on the light side, and get all those details I'm going to want when I'm trying to model this locomotive.
Yeah.
So
that's
you see
slick.
the PPC underneath. You can see, the weathering on it. You can see the number, how spaced out it is, the whole 9 yards. So I can. That's
an awesome point, Ray. Is that sometimes the drone will allow you to have a perspective like more of a square on perspective, because actually, if you were to take that from the ground, everything would be skewed upwards, right?
Yep.
So I mean, it would be a good shot, nonetheless. But you would have to get that same shot. You'd have to be way back.
Right.
With the drone, you don't have to do that with the drone necessarily.
No.
This is let's now go back to the ground and shoot this train. We were talking earlier in the show. You can tell this is heading for the Hoosick Tunnel, and the reason why. It's all single stacks behind it because the Hoosick Tunnel can't deal double stacks. So they're running that. It was funny. I was talking to a fellow photographer up there because I was chatting with him, and it's neat what you learn while you're out there doing photographs too. I said, boy, you guys got all these SD60Es. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I'm sick of them. Said, why is that? And he goes, because they're the only locomotive that can lead in this area because it's got that, it was ACES, ASCES, PTC.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that have it. So he goes, that's all that leads up here. He goes, so if we get a nice, treat with a heritage unit, it's buried in the consist because the SD60Es kind of lead. So it's just we're so sick of seeing them, but I don't know. I'm still I'm kind of really liking them. So
a question comes in from Luke Robinson. Do you ever set up a second camera for video of the passing train?
I've actually, no, I haven't. I have in the past used the drone for video, but of course, most know that the downside of using drone for video is there's no audio. So I have an H1N Zoom recorder, and I've actually set that up trackside and actually taken the audio track and the video track and put them together. But it's a lot of work, and there's a reason why I do an audio podcast, because I'm just not a video guy and try to fix video. And so I've dabbled with it, but I've never really played a whole lot with video. There's some really great videographers. The one that comes to mind is Danny Harmon from Distant Signal. He's amazing. And the stuff
he does a great job.
Awesome job. And there's many others. I don't want to leave anybody out by making a list, but there's just really great guys that do video. Usually the time that I have doesn't allow for a whole lot of setup too, especially if I'm working. I can take a 5-6 minute, know something's coming, grab it. But if it's like, I got to set up a ton of stuff, it just wouldn't work. So I'm flying a DJI Air 2S is the aircraft that I use. And then a familiar sight to Andy, and I think maybe Mike got over here too. So it was pretty cool. We got to see St. Louis and in the Terminal Railroad, and a picture I don't think I shared on here. The guy came up. They actually had a derailment on the south side of the yard, and I was able to fly down there and take a picture of the derailment as well. But really cool vantage point. Really nice to be able to get St. Louis in the background. And for me, this is a pretty big yard. This is a lot of stuff going on here. Had NS there shoving back in. You had Terminal Railroad, the 80, what were they, 80 Max? Andy, do you remember the ones that are?
I thought they were
over
60s.
Here with the crew. Were they 60s?
Yeah, I think they were 60s.
I don't remember what they were, but they were coming out with a whole bunch of auto frames, and then
that was cool. Yeah.
Yep. And then these guys were working, shoving in, and then you saw the NS come in, and then we had stuff going on behind us. And I think just as we were leaving, these HLCX units were starting to do something. So
yeah, they were there for inspection.
Yeah.
Those leaser units were there for inspection. I remember that because they were ringing the bells and blowing the horns and all that good stuff. But yeah, it was really, really cool to, I mean, I standing next to you on the bridge with the rest of the village there, and you got the drone out and you're like, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
And I put my camera down, and I just, all of a sudden you saw the drone and it's gone. Yeah. And I remember you're like, it's kind of far for me to go.
I always maintain visual line of sight, and that's the story we're sticking to.
Yeah. And I remember when it come back in, it was really cool.
And then this one I owe to Chris, who's been popping in with comments. He actually had the eye for it, and I just took the photograph. So really great composition, getting the arch in the background, and really cool. This is actually a trailing unit on a grain train that was sitting down on the banks down in East St. Louis, and captured that. So really good memory of the trip there to St. Louis. We got the arch and the old, I think they call that fake bonnet there, the BNSF lettered war bonnet. So
yeah,
cool capture. Sat down on the ground and shot a little bit up, get a little better angle on it. And
there weren't any red ants there, were there?
No ants there in St. Louis. No, I sat on a curb, so I should have been okay. So so there's my rail photography. And if you want me to roll into the next piece here, I'll share real quick about model railroad, or if you want to take from that. So
let's just send it over to the section crew here. We still got 90 folks sticking with us. If you have questions for Ray, and the type of gear that he uses, those types of things, by all means, let's get those into the chat so I can get those up there. And I know, Mike, you had a few pics that you wanted to show as well, just kind of showing the progression of where you started in terms of your rail fanning and kind of where you ended up. So do you want to take over and do a couple, or do you want to save it for next time? What are you thinking?
I'll do a quick shot here. We can do that.
Let's see we want to see Mike's stuff.
I think we want to see Mike's stuff. It's good too. Real good.
Let's see here.
And then we can all sit back and see if we can learn about what or point out what Ray's taught us here in the last hour here.
All right, let me see if I can do that. Did I do that right?
There we are. Now we're
yes or no?
Yep.
So before we get rolling, Mike,
but I can't see you guys, though. That's the only thing.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yep.
He can't see us at all.
No, go ahead.
Nothing.
So Late Night Model Railroad has a question for both you guys. Are full frame sensors any interest to you, or are you all in on crop sensors?
I'm interested in upgrading to full frame.
Ooh.
I know there's advantages to full frame, but my budget is not interested in full frame at this time. Listen, again, my gear shoots pretty good stuff. I'm not shooting for, on a professional level. I'm doing amateur photography.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someday I'll get my a photo or two may slide on the desk of somebody interested in them. But, I've had the honor of printing out photos that hang in people's houses, and, that's really cool for me. It's a great honor.
Yeah.
if I was doing it more professionally, I would upgrade gear, do a little bit better when it comes to cameras, but I'm pretty happy. I think it works well for me, and and then maybe when that's something needs, I mean, the next big thing is mirrorless, and the advantage of going mirrorless, but that means different glass. That means a whole bunch of different things that my budget's just not ready for. This whole, between podcasting, model railroading, and rail photography, there's 3 big expensive hobbies in all of that. So I want to make sure I balance it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Mike. So you got some orange and black stuff to show us here.
Yeah, this is the very first Railfan photo I ever took. I believe this was like 1980, somewhere between 1982 and 1984. I had access to the Green Bay, the Milwaukee Road, and I took this using a 110 camera. If anybody remembers the little 110 camera, the really small, narrow film, they look kind of like a reel-to-reel, side-to-side type thing. It was just that connected the both sides. That's what this was taken with.
Wow.
And this was taken the same, obviously it's the opposite side. And obviously, as you could tell, I didn't have anything about focus. I didn't have anything about about orientation. I was just trying to take a picture of a train. That's all it was. My dad was doing something at the yard. I couldn't tell you. I could not tell you what there were 3 GP40s, 2000 series units. I couldn't tell you what the other ones were. Nothing. So, but these 2 38-2s, these have ended up being like my 2 favorites. So, because come to find out, these came to Green Bay all the time. So that was like when I first started back in the 80s.
Let me ask you about that. Let me ask you real quick, Mike. When you took those pictures of the Milwaukee Road,
yes,
when you took them, did you ever think the Milwaukee Road would be a fallen flag?
No, I thought they'd be there forever.
And kind of to a point, and my point being this: Ray's rules of railfanning, right? And whatever we're going to call this document,
shoot everything,
shoot it, because this golden era that Mike caught, he had no clue when he took this photo this would be a golden era and a fallen flag. And how invaluable is these photographs that he's critiquing here actually to a Milwaukee Road fan to be able to see these 2 locomotives.
Yeah,
they're invaluable. Yeah.
This even shows, I don't know if you can see my cursor here or not, but this boxcar in the back, shortly after this, that boxcar, those ripped, that was back when they used to use these tracks on the side of the depot or the engine house. They would use those for like a rip track area, and for car repair. That all became an intermodal facility in the mid 80s. So that all this right here shows, this would have been like maybe a year or 2 after this. That would have been all piggybacks. There wouldn't have been any box cars back there. And the same with a lot of this stuff. It's just now you look at this, and this is nothing but grassed over field. I actually worked I took piggyback trains out of this yard at one time. It's all gone now.
It's all gone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all gone. The base for the engine house is still there, but everything else is gone.
Yeah.
So then in the early 90s, this is actually the inspiration for my Farland Terminal Railroad. Is I worked for a company called Dakota Rail out of Hutchinson, Minnesota in 1992, prior to me coming back to Green Bay and starting my career with the Green Bay and Western. And this is another Milwaukee Road unit. This is an old Milwaukee Road SW1200. And this is what they used to use. I was working on the track crews and stuff for them for a couple of months. And this is one of the few photos that I took that really turned out well. And again, garbage little point and click camera, just nothing fancy. It was just a little point and click film camera. I shot film forever. And I was never very good at it. So thankfully digital came around, and I started I befriended a Robert Frischella out of Wyndham, Massachusetts, and because he's a fellow S scale modeler. And one day I went out to visit. One time I went out to visit him, and I'm like, "Hey, can we go hit the Grafton and Upton?" And sure enough, here we are at the Grafton and Upton. And that was when I started my whole journey in. I'm going to make a list of places I want to go, and I'm going to go shoot them. Period. That's just what I'm going to do.
That's
And
awesome.
it's really been an awesome journey so far, and I couldn't be more thankful for the people that I've met. And when people actually, Ray, very much similar to what you were saying before, when people find out what you're actually doing, they kind of think it's neat that you actually traveled a distance to come and do that. And they kind of look at you weird, like you're kind of, but I mean, I get that look all the time anyway. But I mean, it's just one of those things where you really can get access to some things that you might not normally get access to just by talking with people,
Yeah.
and finding out that some of these short line roads. Now, we got kicked off the Grafton Upton. I'm just gonna tell you that much right now. We kind of got asked very nicely to not
Politely
be
asked
where we
to
were.
leave.
Yeah, we were asked not to be where we were. So we went through town, and here's they have some MP15 ACs. Here's a picture coming through Grafton, I believe it is. This is my foray into trying to be more artsy with my photography. Not worry so much about the train, but worry about obviously the scenery around it.
Composition.
Yeah, no, this is also out in Massachusetts. This is MBTA, I believe it's called. And I know that the engine is out of focus and everything, but the reason I wanted to include this is to show that even when you're modeling something, like Ray was saying, take a shot of it. Take pictures of any train you can. If they turn out great, if not, fine. But like right here, this is one of the only trains we saw from MBTA that did not have a matched set of in its
Cars.
consist of passenger equipment. It's got that it's got the one double deck car, and the rest are the same. Why? Who knows? But that's just kind of the way that is. So it's like Ray said, take pictures of everything. You never know what you're going to catch when you do those things. You might catch something amazing and not even know it. Again, I caught this. I wanted to take one of these GP40s that MBTA had. This is the only picture because he was actually leaving. The only shot I was able to get of it. And I kind of feel like I'm lucky enough to have composed this the way I did. I would really like to know what this person has in their grocery bag, but it's, because as I'm taking this picture, they walked right around as I was taking this picture, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So it's like, all right, whatever. So it's there was that later that weekend, or that while we were still there. Here's par one. Man, I can't remember the name of the towns, but he was booking right here. He had to be doing 50 mile an hour when I was coming around this corner. That's why it surprised us. We thought we had time to set up. We got out of the vehicle and literally had to get over to the tracks to get this shot. And if you look real close, you can just tell it's going fast. It's not sitting still. And there's another shot of it. We had a really good chase.
Nice pick.
What's that?
That's a really good pick.
Oh, thanks. This was actually going to Worcester, Ray, down some branch. It was 10 miles an hour the rest of the way. Once it got off of this main line, it went into a yard and then was 10 mile an hour the rest of the way over to Worcester. I don't know. We didn't follow him all the way there. Yeah. So I don't. That might put some perspective into where it was coming from. Do you know or no?
Yeah, it was probably dropping down maybe Ayer. Mass, and then
Yes.
and then
Yep.
drop down to Worcester from there. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Because this was just on the side of air. Yes.
So I have a question for you guys. So like I'm relatively new at taking pictures of, trains just in general. And these things are coming at you, right? And they're moving. So how do you get such a crisp photograph? Is it shutter speed or what is the deal to get like
my camera is always on TV. Which is shutter priority.
okay.
So and so that, at least on my Canon, that allows me to, and I set my focus for the back button. I changed where instead of pressing part down on the shutter, I have a separate button that I have designated for my focus. So
Yeah.
I'll press and hold that and then get ready and follow. And I just follow the train and click, and start. And then I also do it with a burst. So I don't take just one single shot. This was probably one of 10 shots that I took of that in that spot. Yeah. So that's just the way I do it.
Yeah.
I prescribe to the camera being able to make some decisions in the modern world, right? The technology that they've put into the modern cameras is pretty amazing. And this comes really from Scott Kelby. Scott Kelby is another very well-known photographer and even known as an educator. Wrote a lot of books on Photoshop. Wrote a lot of books on photography. He's shot for the NFL. He's done tons and tons of stuff. But I go into aperture priority. I'll set my aperture. So I'll set that. I usually start at f8 and work my way north or south of that, depending on lighting conditions. The more light you have, the faster you can go and maintain it's all in a triangle. So I try to do that. I'm a back button focus. That changed my entire photography. The only problem with back button is when you hand the camera to somebody that doesn't understand back button, they can't use it. It's like, it's a paperweight to them because they don't know. But once you get used to using your thumb for focus and then your finger to fire, it definitely changes. So, that's where I start. I do an f8, I use aperture, and I let the camera make an ISO decision. I try to keep the ISO low. You don't want a lot of grain, as much less grain as you can. Let it make a shutter decision. I tell it no less than 1/640 or 1/800. And then I try to get a good speed shutter set on my aperture using auto ISO, let the camera make an ISO decision, and then work it from there. And then if you know that you've got a bunch of good shots, and then that's the thing, you're waiting on a train, the lighting conditions can change in an instant. Next thing you know, you got a good light. Next thing you know, within 5 minutes of it coming, and Mike knows this, we were in Kirkwood waiting on the trains that never came, but him and I were looking at lighting conditions, and we knew we had an awesome window. Like we said, I know when I'm going to take my shot, I see a light window right there, and it's going to look awesome when that light hits the front of the locomotive. Yeah. And within 10 minutes, that window closed.
It was gone.
I was like, Mike, there goes the window.
Yeah, there goes the window. I'm like, oh, well,
kind of like fishing.
Else.
Yep.
Exactly. When the bite window closes, it's time to get off the lake. Go drink beer.
Yep. And there's a bunch of posts. Joey was just talking about using shutter speed like Mike does. I mean, listen, there's no wrong answer if you come up with a great result. I've go to aperture priority and let the camera make a decision, setting a minimum shutter speed of what I know is the minimum I'm going to get a capture that's going to be crisp, with lighting conditions. So
yeah. Yep. And so this is this picture here is one of my favorites. It's a little bright, but it's good enough for me. It was on the 10 mile an hour, and there's a whole gaggle of people following this at this time. So we just started following all sorts of people, when they were going down. And this was past some old depot / freight house. And I couldn't tell you the name of the town. If I looked at a map, I could tell you. But it's just outside of Air, maybe a handful of miles, or outside of the yard, just a handful of miles. So and then this is down. We crawled up on top of a viaduct for the CSX, and kind of this is before drones, and took this picture, which I kind of like this one too. It's kind of gets a chance to see the whole train.
That's cool.
And great point with that too, Mike. Because remember when you were rolling through these pre-show, and I asked you if it was drone. Just because the drone can fly to 400 feet doesn't mean you go to 400 feet. Some of the best shots are like at 50, 75 feet. It's like this perfect. This is a great drone shot. I mean, you're lucky you had a vantage point that you didn't have to, but it makes a great point.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, this too is like, if I would have had a drone shot, I probably would have possibly gone up a little higher with this, because I wanted to get him maybe a little bit more in the middle of the rail, like off to the right a little more, to get to try to get this signal poles, the crossing, out of the back of the. But if I had waited to take this photo another second or two, the front of the engine would have been out of frame when the back of the engine cleared this post. So you have to take pictures of your subject when you have the opportunity, and sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. And that's just the way things are. That's just the way it is. And then this is them going over some causeway, and it got hot and humid and hazy, and you could see that in this picture. It's just it is ridiculously hazy. So that was always a fun chase.
Great frame up though. You had a great window to catch them in right there. Did a good time.
Yeah. Thank you. It was really, really fortunate that we were able to stop on the side of the road and catch this when we did.
I like the leaf in the bottom right-hand corner. It just kind of draws your eye towards the locomotive by having that little, it's like a vignette. It works well because now your eye is going right towards the locomotive. I like it.
Thank you. It was all done on purpose. No, it wasn't.
Right, yes, it was.
It was.
Wink, wink.
So that we live fairly close to Minneapolis, St. Paul. I mean, by fairly close, 4.5 hours. So we have a lot of friends that live in the Twin Cities area that are, other podcasters, and a lot of model railroad friends. And I had an opportunity to go over and visit an old friend. This is the former Green Bay and Western 316, an engine that I have personally operated and not operated on. I haven't ever run it, but I mean, it's when I was a brakeman and a conductor on the Green Bay and Western, this is an engine I used quite often, and one of the last GBW units still out there in regular service. Not so much anymore. It's been taken out of commission, but I had the chance to go and see these guys and see it, and inside the engine house, and so I took a lot of detail shots of it, but then I really got drawn to this area here, because I went and I took a picture of it from almost right up, shooting up at it, and you could see the square and some of the Green Bay, the word Green Bay here.
Oh yeah.
Then you could see the W and the C from when the Wisconsin Central painted it out. And then the MNNR obviously is right here. So all three railroads, 3 of the 4 railroads that owned this, because this was a former Chicago Northwestern unit at one time, but 3 of the 4 railroads that own this unit are represented in this one photograph. And it still has the old ratty little, they took the dog, there was a doghouse on. Yeah, they had took the old doghouse off the side. Now there's just this ratty arm. I thought that was kind of cool.
I love to see the old stuff bleeding back through.
Also in Minnesota, I went over to this. Oh yeah, I love that. Anytime I get a shot, a chance to shoot something like that, I always try to take advantage of it. It's just the history of the car, So here's a shot on the Prairie Line, owned by Twin Cities and Western. This is a Red River Valley and Western unit. And I just kind of thought the cedar was, implement was kind of a neat frame for where the engine was. If I had it to do, this was with my old Canon XS. I would love to get an opportunity to take the same kind of photo with my new camera, just to compare what the different, what the difference would be with the lens and the better camera body and stuff. I'm kind of getting interested in doing those kind of things, retaking some photos that I've taken in the past.
Yeah, it would definitely be
here's another
cool if you were able to bring the aperture up, right? So you would go up,
right.
up is lower numbers, right? So bring the aperture up to blur out your foreground a little bit more. Like get the idea that it's at this, but blur it so that the locomotive's what's in focus.
Yeah.
Maybe start at like 4,
try to make it a
5,
true frame.
and try to pull it back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A great idea to try composition and experiment for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in a digital world, what do you got to lose, right? It's not like it's costing you a lot of dollars in order to have this film processed.
Yeah,
if something doesn't work out, you just set it off to the side. I don't delete anything, so I've deleted very, very few photos. But
there was a meme kicking around somewhere that had a roll of film that said 36 exposures, 6 keepers. And then it had an SD card that said 1,500 exposures, 6 keepers.
Yep. Very true. Here's a picture of a Twin Cities and Western train that's on its way from Glencoe, Minnesota over to Appleton, Minnesota. And I just wanted to try to do something different, to try to show the purpose behind the railroad, not the railroad itself. And this Lakeland Bean Company is west of Glencoe, and the train's just going past it, and it's just synonymous of what that train is actually doing. It had nothing but, I think, 40 some covered hoppers, and they were just pedaling covered hoppers all the way across the state. Here's a shot of a Lorem rail grinder. So I took this. I carry with me at work a little Sony, what is it called? Something shot camera. And I carry that in my lunchbox just in case something happens or I see something, I just take a quick shot of it. But we had to wait for this guy to finish working on our lead in Manitowoc. So I thought, well, I'm going to get real artsy. I'm going to open the door because I had a GP40L-2L, and I'm sitting there going, I'm going to open the door, and when he goes by, I'm going to shoot through here. And this is what I ended up getting. And I think it turned out really, really cool.
Neat shot.
Again, now here, this phone or this picture was taken with my cell phone. So, because I couldn't get my SLR to do what I wanted it to. So I just said, well, the heck with it. I'm just going to use my cell phone and see what happens. And I got a great shot out of it. This is the Escanaba Lake Superior inside the engine house in Menominee, Michigan. And it's actually one of the inspirations for my engine house build because it has a dirt floor. And this is actually the floor of the inside of the engine house. So here is right? Yeah.
Spare no expense.
Spare no expense, right? This is an old Milwaukee Road building. This is a Milwaukee Road engine house, and this is the way it was built, and that's all there is to it. So you can take your photography can be used to inspire you to do things on your layout that you don't necessarily might not have a chance to understand right away or to see again, but you can have that photographic evidence that this happened at some point in time. And this is good because most people don't think of dirt floors in an engine house. They think of all this other stuff. No, this is the way it was.
Right.
So this is not the greatest picture, but it shows how bad the rail is that they're coming through. Yeah. So there is track in there. If you notice, the boxcar is going to the right, the engine's going to the left. I have a couple of photos of the same area that they're a little bit more distinguished, like farther angled, but it was not very clear at all. But yeah, this is taken with I believe my old lens again, and it was it was that was quite the day.
I mean, that
Uh,
was just there's no rails there, Ray. He's lying to you. So that
I
no,
have to take his
yeah.
word for it
There
because
are-
there's
No, they're
Holy
just
mackerel.
it's just a couple of 2x4s laid down, and then every now and then it's just grooves in the sand. There is no rails there where that locomotive is.
It's probably a very obscure reference, but if you've ever seen Wrongfully Accused with Leslie Nielsen and they redo the Fugitive, and the train is like
Oh.
chasing him, but it's like chasing him off the tracks and through the woods. This is what this is reminding me. And the name on the side of the locomotive just cracks me up because the name of the locomotive is the Friggin' Express. If you watch it go
That's awesome.
That's a good shot, Mike.
Thanks. So these are some engines in the deadline up at Wells, Michigan. There's a boat landing in a park and stuff like that right next to it, and you can see they're all capped off. These are a pair of SD9s. These are former reserve mining units. They operated for the longest time. So rumor has it that one of these is getting back in service. One of the SD9s is getting put back in service because they're so power short. But it's just, I thought it was really cool because he still had the EMD model plate on the side of this one. You have this one's missing the builder plate, but this one still has the builder plate. Yeah. So I mean, the ELS is kind of like a museum. So it's they have a lot of first generation stuff.
But still, for those plates to
and
stay
this
on
is
those
their good
locomotives,
track.
yeah.
That's their high speed main
this
line.
is their main line. Yeah, that's their high speed main line. And don't worry, he wasn't going very fast. He was actually going 5 miles an hour, and he was about a quarter of a mile or more away from me. He was like had just come over the next crossing down, and I thought, well, I'm just going to take this quick shot, and this is the way it turned out. And I kind of thought that this was kind of neat. I thought it was kind of artsy, but kind of shows that
cool.
the disrepair. It shows the disrepair of what a short line goes through. I mean, we all think railroads have all this big heavy rail and it's all pristine. Yeah, no, this is the way this railroad actually is. It's unfortunate, but I mean, it's the truth of it.
I like it. It's great composition, Mike.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Here's another shot. This is at Crivets by the depot and the Y that goes off towards Marinette. And then the main line is actually right here. So this is they have, and this was taken very, very, I got to think, late in the day. I was on my way back from someplace and I just happened to stop here, and this is where
were you on the way back from doing the LS&I?
I think I was.
You were, and you took that shot. I remember you sent it to me, and I'm like, SOB.
You say that every time I go out, and every
I know.
I send you a shot. Well, you're gonna get really mad here pretty soon. Here's a picture on the of the CP. I just wanted to do something with the stop sign at the crossing, and I thought that was kind of neat. This is on the line. This is on the Watertown sub. So the engine could be back a little further, but beggars can't be choosers. This is the one that wasn't blurry. So again, learning is a good thing for this. Here's the line to Wisconsin Southern's line to I want to say Caledonia. Does that sound right? Out of Horicon. Now, this is the Union Pacific, former Chicago Northwestern's Adams line. And I was really all I was doing was trying to get a picture of a UP train through there. I sat here for an hour and a half waiting because there was supposed to be a train coming through that never showed up. So I took this picture, and Mike Shanky, actually, friend of the show, Mike Shanky, was with me, him and his daughter. Mm-hmm. And I took this photo and then this was the photo after the whole train went past. And so I kind of thought this was kind of neat with the cornfield, and you could tell the season, and they're kind of gearing up, going up the hill and stuff like that. And this is a whole train going to Caledonia. So then I went out to the Rocky Mountain Train Show here in April. And one day I was just on the way to Greeley from Denver and to meet up with Michelle Kempema. And I found this local, and I thought, again, not the greatest photo, but it gives some good perspective of the distance between where we were, or where I was, and where the Rockies were, and how snow-capped that whole section was.
Yeah.
And it was a hazy day. It was not a clear day. It looks nice. The sun is all up here, or the skies are nice and blue, but it was hazy. The mountains had a haze through them, and it was really kind of unfortunate, because I would have liked it a little crisper with the mountains. But
it's pretty amazing out there, isn't it, Mike?
Here's one of my first drone shots.
Oh, hey, go ahead, Ray.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think your internet's a little delayed. That's why you're hearing me a second or two after. It's almost amazing when you get to Colorado. It's like you think you could walk out to the mountains. Like, they're so big, and they're so, like, if you have that feeling like, oh, I could just, I could walk a few blocks and I could be at the base of them. It's so amazing how bold they are in Denver. It really is a cool sight.
I'm probably 40 minutes away from the base of that mountain right now.
Yeah.
From right here.
Right.
At least a half an hour to 40 minutes.
And it looks like you'd reach out and touch it.
Yeah. Here's one of my first drone photos. So I went up to Marquette, Michigan to shoot the LSNI, and I took my drone with me, and I'm thinking, you know what? One of these days I'm going to go up and do this. I've shot, I was using my drone a lot for doing like structures and things like that, getting not a lot with trains. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to go out over Lake Superior, and I'm going to go, and I'm sitting here going, you're an idiot. You better download every one of these pictures to your phone immediately. So I set it up so that everything goes, as I'm taking the pictures, as you do, it's right on your phone, just in case, because I never flew over water. I've never flew out this far before. I had never, tried to do anything of this magnitude. And I got really, really lucky. This is one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken. My wife actually wants me to make this into a print and hang it up in our thing. So, but water with drone flying, you have to really watch what you're doing. Altitude and that really can play havoc with your sensors.
Really?
And it can, because Ray, there's something about that, right? There's something about the sensors that you can actually crash into the water, because it won't, if you don't have the right sensors, or if you don't have sensors on the bottom. Like my drone doesn't have altitude sensors on the bottom. So as I'm coming down, it only knows by footage where it's supposed to be compared to where I'm at. So I could easily fly, because I've got that Mini 2. I've got a DJI Mini 2. So I don't have all the high-techy sensors on it. But I just try not to fly over water if I don't have to. But I wanted to get this shot. And I'm actually standing right here.
Where?
I'm right where my cursor is.
Oh, you're over by the beach.
I'm over by the beach, in that parking lot by the beach. So I'm flying from there, and I flew out this way. Yeah. And you can see the workers out here and all the string of cars. And so
yeah, nobody likes you, Mike.
That's one of my. Yeah. Here's a difference.
Look at me and my awesome drone shots of an ore duck.
If you look real closely right here, if you see that, see that little red mark right there?
No.
That is the LSNI U25C that's on display at the aisle.
Yeah.
That's the display right there. and this is the big county park and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm right over in this neck of the woods over here. So yeah, this was
That's
kind of neat,
cool.
a lot of fun.
That's super cool, Mike.
It was thanks. And then I flew a little safer, where except for all these telephone wires, I had to kind of hope and pray that where I was at, I was almost directly underneath them. So I was really, this is only taken from about 30 feet, I think.
Yeah.
So like you said, Ray, you don't need you don't need to be up hundreds of feet in order to get good perspective. But the thing is this is all overburden. That's all overburden from the ore process. And this,
tailings.
the train is, the train is dwarfed by it. It's just absolutely phenomenal. This is Empire Junction right here.
Yeah. So like 1,000-foot tall piles of just raw dirt.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and this is the line that goes to Partridge. I think this is the other portion of the Y. So if you look here, there's this track right here. That's what this CN train is on. And he's actually backing up. Believe it or not.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna rudely interrupt you, Mike. Have you guys ever doinked anything with your drones? Like, have you ever hit a wire or a pole or a car or person?
Myself?
I hope no. I've never hit a person. I've clipped myself with a prop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They hurt.
That doesn't feel good. No.
I've crashed doing something I shouldn't be doing. I was flying through the woods at my parents' house and nobody around, and I thought I could do it at real low altitude and sneak through all the paths, and I hit a tree. Broke a prop. Broke the aircraft trying to hand land it. I pulled down on the fuselage and broke the front arms. Had to send it to JI for repair.
The longer version.
No, I haven't hit anybody. Kind of yeah, well, we'll keep it short. But the it's kind of a weird feeling, like when you send it out and you've got an investment in it, and then that feeling of when it comes back is like the relief. It's like as many times as I've gotten good and proficient pilot, it's still when that thing comes back and you land it right in front of you, it's just kind of it's good to see it again. And
there's always a pucker factor with it, I guess, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. I'm
sorry,
actually
Mike.
going to try to. No, that's okay. I'm actually going to submit this one for the company calendar for 2025.
Oh, yeah,
that'd be cool.
I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try and see. I mean, I've seen what else they've put in that calendar, and I think this would cut.
I like how low you are. Like you did you get low in this, or are you just standing there? Because
I'm just standing there. The road actually drops. Do you see how the angle of this is? The angle of the road is kind of like this, and so I'm actually lower just because of where I'm standing, not because I got low. So,
but look at the perspective, right? And that's a good lesson right there. Just perspective of getting low. It makes that locomotive look that much bolder, right? But it just has that bigger appearance, and with that background, and then you've got that angry sky. You've done an excellent job there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Good.
Here's some of my favorite places. I like shooting Metra. Don't ask me why. I just, for some reason,
secret.
Yeah, it's a dirty little secret. I enjoy shooting Metra. I can't remember what town this is from. But it's on the CB&Q old Burlington lines, and this is one of their heritage units. And obviously it's the fall. Here's Amtrak coming through. I want to say that might be one of the chiefs. The chief. I want to say that's the chief coming in, but it's here's BNSF. It was just, this day was train after train after train. It was ridiculous. It was nuts. Every time you turned around, there was a headlight coming in one of the three tracks.
There's a shot I've never mastered, and I'm still working on it, is the meat. It's so hard to capture and get the essence of a meat, right? You almost have to get, you almost have to freeze one and motion blur the other one to get the aspect of them coming at each other and passing. It's like almost got to have that element to, because you could almost think, and I'm not taking, this is a good shot. This is just the struggle I have. Is BNSF just sitting there waiting for that train to pass, or are they coming at it? Right. But you know what I mean? In a shot, like how cool would it be if you could get that Amtrak to blur? Right. And then if you had just a little bit of motion blur as they were passing. And I have not mastered that. It's so hard because half the time you don't know where exactly that meet's going to happen. Right. Unless one train really is standing still. But if you got them both moving, it's like, how do you know to be in this exact spot at the right time and then have that set up right? And I haven't had that opportunity to nail it.
This was all dumb luck because because if you look, the Amtrak is leaving. He's got the clear signal, but here's all of his exhaust, and his exhaust is flowing over into here. That's why this is so blurry. It's because you have the exhaust from here. You can see the exhaust here and the exhaust here. It's all conforming into one thing. If you look, everything in this area here is exhaust like blurred. So it's just one of those shots that I was just like, okay, I'm lucky I got the shot. But there's no way to get around that. And like you said, it's the blurring of it, I think, makes it what it is. So it really kind of fun. And then this is another on the CP.
That's a cool picture.
Love it.
I like the lighting.
It was late in the day. It was way late. I probably was supposed to be home. I think I was after curfew on this one, but it was, so I just like, there's always one more train, right? Just one more train. A little bit more Metra. This is obviously Mount Prospect. It's a location I've wanted to shoot. I shot about 7 different Metra trains. Obviously, this is the hind end coming back at you. Not a lot of people take the time to shoot this. Everybody just wants to shoot the engines. But in Metra, you got the push-pull thing going on. This is the engine at this point, So why not shoot it when you have an opportunity? And that's a really cool passenger depot. It's really
Who's it formerly? What's MP? Is that Mopac?
No, I think that stands for Mount Prospect.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, sorry.
But I can't remember what line that is. I think this might be on the Mopac.
Well, I'm looking for a railroad, like who's whose line. I wasn't even thinking Mount Prospect.
Yeah. So, I took a trip up to go on a beer run to go to Sudbury, Ontario, and I was fortunate to have the Huron Central and talk with the train master there and work with the crews and things like that. Got to know these guys pretty good. Awesome little railroad. Highly recommend going up there. I am definitely going back up there as long as they're around. I definitely want to get back up on the Huron Central and shoot them. It was a rainy, cold, crappy day this day. It was literally terrible. But that's just one of those things where sometimes you got to shoot in bad weather. And this is pretty cool train. I had an opportunity to go north of Sudbury and I shot, now from Sudbury to White River, Ontario is a segregated branch of VIA that it's on the CP, but VIA runs these 3 RDCs on there to go just between White River and Sudbury. How long they're going to keep on doing it, I have no idea, but they take tourists and all sorts of stuff. And that was one of the things I wanted to do is shoot these guys. And hopefully at one point within the next year or two, if they're still around, I want to get back up there and I want to ride them. I want to get up and that's just absolutely gorgeous. And you can tell the time of the year. This is early spring because the trees are just everything. It was, again, rainy, dark. See the sky up here, Ray? This is what I was talking about. You can't discern any of these clouds at all. Yeah, it's just gray. Instead of being blue, everything is gray. So, and I think that the thing I like about this photo is these are LED headlights, and they just absolutely pop. You can tell the difference between the LED. These are incandescents up here, and then these are LEDs, and you can just see the difference. But check out that horn.
I was just going to say that horn is.
Yeah.
That's a massive horn. 5 chimes all forward. You kidding me? That thing's loud.
Yep.
Here's a train on the CP I took. I can't remember right. This is outside of Portage, west of Portage. And so I just wanted to take a picture of that entire length, just showing the topography of what the railroad looks like right there with the little sway in the back and everything.
Yeah.
We went through northern Indiana. We were on our way back from Columbus, Ohio. My wife and I were. And I said, gee, I'd like to do a little rail fanning on the way back, but I don't really know whatever. And she, for whatever reason, she had never done this before ever in our marriage. She pulls up, she goes, hey, there's a steam engine thing going on in Elkhart, Indiana, or someplace like that, I believe.
Sounds
it was
about right.
And because this is on the Indiana Northeastern, I believe. And so sure enough, we go. I have all these pictures, and I took this photograph while she was taking video of. I had her hold my video camera because I didn't have my tripod. I just wasn't able to get it out right away because there wasn't enough time. So she's taking a video while I take this photo, and I'm sitting here going, well, this is great. Even, I mean, she does a better job of prepping this stuff than I do.
There was a missed opportunity there, like something about getting it out in time with the wife, or I don't know, but we'll come back to that one afterwards.
Yeah, I know, whatever.
I won't be going to Mike's house to sleep on his couch because he's going to be on it.
Yeah, no, she doesn't listen to this show. So
smart.
Yeah. But I just kind of thought that was really cool. I don't really shoot a lot of steam, so it's. I thought that was really neat. Here's a location near and dear to you there, Andy. This is
it looks pretty familiar.
Yeah, this is on the Wisconsin Southern on the Oshkosh line. This is at what's just outside of Horicon, the first town.
Burnett.
Yep.
Burnett.
Right by the. Now, if I have my order of things right, this is. I'm going to do this just to show that you always take pictures. You don't need to take pictures of just trains when you go rail fanning. If you see something that catches your eye, grab a hold of it. This is an awesome shot. This crew was amazing. These guys were really, really cool. And it's a rental thing that wasn't on the railroad for very long, I don't think. So
now it's gone now.
Yeah, now it's all gone. But if you turned around just off to the right, there was this guy in this yard had this sign in his yard down on the road. I thought that was awesome. You know how you always see the slow down for your kids and everything? This is a sign that's sitting there. I thought that was kind of neat. So, I mean, take pictures of anything you see that's unusual too. Here's my one. Okay, so the story behind this is I was leaving the TRRA, and I noticed that there was this Amtrak, I'm going to call it a graveyard, with all these old Amtrak cars. And you can see it's just a gaggle. There's an RDC in here someplace off to the left and everything. And it was this was at St. Louis last year. It had thunderstorms going on, everything else. I just happened to go and be holding the shutter down. All right, I'm going to say this. Do not ever do this because this was a dumb idea. It wasn't smart. Don't do this. I do not condone this, and either does anybody from the Second Section podcast or around the layout. I was driving with my SLR out the window, shooting, and I didn't even know if I was in focus. I was just held the shutter down, and I got the lightning shot.
Nice.
Just
so not
dumb luck.
Not the whole, hey, you're outside in the middle of a lightning storm. No, you can do that all you want. Be outside when it's dangerous, but don't hang your camera out the window. That's the takeaway here, Mike.
While you're driving. While you're driving. Yes, that's the takeaway.
Okay, I got it. I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page.
But
do it safe. Bring your wife and let her hang out the window with the camera.
Exactly.
Oh no.
Exactly.
And that's it.
So I just dumb luck that I got that. That's just a little anecdotal thing. Kirkwood last year, or 2023 actually, I wanted to play around with. Yeah, I took this on purpose. I set it up to do it like this, and I love the way this turned out. It's really, really it was one of my favorite Kirkwood pictures I've ever taken. I would like it if this person wasn't in it right here, but beggars can't be choosers. That can be cropped out a little bit, but so yeah, so like you said, just some blur, and the train itself is really just there for perspective.
Did they have groceries too, Mike?
What's that? No, that one. No, everybody. No. But I haven't. Everybody always walks into my shot. I don't know why. This was going back to Colorado. I took this the day I was there, or the day I showed up there. I was talking with the train crew. Sun was setting behind the Rockies, and the engine was sitting there. I was talking and having conversation with them. I just said, "Hold on a second." I turned and I took about 5 shots, and this was one of them that turned out really, really well. I love this shot. It really gives you the depth of where those mountains are. This is in not Aurora. What is it? Is it Aurora, Colorado? Suburb of Denver. But it really, really kind of nice.
Just looks like what would be like in an old George Strait video,
Right.
like a music video.
Yeah,
That's the type of scene you think.
Yeah.
Great shot.
Yeah.
Then on the way to St. Louis, this was a purpose for me going to Quincy, Illinois. I wanted to shoot the C415, one of the last ones out in the wild, so to speak, if not the last one. I know there's one down in Oklahoma. The 701 is down in Oklahoma. But the 702, it's been sitting here for years, and I just wanted to go and get shots of it for my own personal collection. And just that was the purpose of going and doing this. Obviously, it's a roster shot type of thing. It wasn't moving. It hasn't moved for a long time,
Yeah.
But I did fly my drone around this and got some nice overhead shots. And I was able to get perspective shots from the opposite side as well. So then down in St. Louis, we were Shane Mason and Tony Cook and myself went down to the Manufacturers Railway, and they're rebuilding a bunch of GP15s, GP15-1s, and all sorts of other engines down there. And this is the weirdest color blue I've ever seen on a locomotive. It's lighter than even Rock Island blue, and but it's really sharp. And so I thought this was kind of a neat kind of perspective with the old brick chimney and everything else like that, and the facade of the building and everything. And it was really it was very nice down there. One thing is down there about that area, they have a big graffiti wall that constantly is changing, and they have railroad cars, like rail cars, a road's width between the wall and where the tracks are. And those cars almost never have fresh paint from what I understand on them. They do get graffitied from time to time, but that wall is there is some phenomenal artistry on there. And if you ever get an opportunity to go down there, do it safely, but you can get back in there and go and check out that wall and get down in Manufacturers Railway. It's really, really kind of cool down there. And then this was at Silvis, Illinois. Andy, you and I on our way back from St. Louis, we were kind of back by the where the NRE was, and
where the NRE was.
Yeah, and this is a like a GP9 or a Jeep 7 hood from the Rio Grande just sitting there up against some building. And yeah, so I thought, wow, that's kind of a neat thing. I'll just take a picture of it. So I never expected to see that. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was a really cool find.
I think you're the one that found it.
Yeah, I spotted it, and then we made sure to take all sorts of pictures of it.
Here is NREX number 6300. Right here is a Sioux Line unit. This is the number 770, but this is the Milwaukee Road 177. Is the original. It's what it was built as, Milwaukee Road 177. And there were several of these 6300s in the area. So there are a handful of SD40-2s from the Milwaukee Road still around. And you can see it has the bell right behind the cab still. Yep. So it's still, other than the paint, it looks very, and the ditch lights, it looks very Milwaukee Roady. Here's a picture. Oh, this was just outside of Rochelle. You remember the name of the town? We passed this train
Creston?
on the way to Rochelle.
Yeah.
We passed this train, and this is the one we kept on waiting for it. So this train goes by. We get back in the truck. Yeah, Creston, Illinois, and so this train goes by. We're sitting there, we're just kind of messing around. And the next thing you know is we're waiting for the whole thing to go by. Here comes the one that's going westbound.
we didn't even see it coming.
We didn't even see it coming because we were blocked by a grain elevator. So we didn't even know. And I had just looked on the track. There was nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll get in the truck, blah, blah, blah. And nope. I'm like, oh, nuts. But that's okay. That's kind of the way that goes. And I believe that is it. That's it.
Awesome. Awesome stuff.
So it's that was quite the barrage of Railfan I guess photos. But I think a lot of those principles could be tied to taking photos of your models, right? I mean, the lighting, the adjusting the shutter speed and those types of things to get the movement element in. And I think a lot of the principles that we see on the 1-to-1 scale could certainly play into the models. And I know we're pushing up against the 3-hour bumper here.
Yeah,
and I know Ray needs to get to bed here soon, so
I have the day off tomorrow. So
lucky you.
La-dee-da. I don't. I have to get my monkey butt up in the morning. So, but I do want to, first of all, Mike, again, your photography is, top rate as well. And thank you for taking the time to, put all that together for us tonight. And give us some of the story behind a lot of the photos as well. Like, when we were at NRE, that was kind of a cool time. So, and Ray, thank you for putting that and agreeing to come on the show. I know we just saw each other, all of us at St. Louis, but I think, it was a lot of fun to kind of reconnect tonight and just kind of ooh and ah over some real cool photographs and, learn how to be better at taking pictures as well. So
I'm just thrilled to be a part of a podcast where at the end of it, I don't have to edit it. I'm absolutely thrilled about that. Right. I can take the headset off and I can just walk away. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And listen, railfanning in rail photography and model railroading, I get tossed at times. It's like, I love it all almost equally.
Yeah.
If you told me, operating session or go rail fanning at somewhere with good traffic, I'd be tossed. Yeah. It'd be like, oh, Can I do both? You know, it's like, so, but it does tie in. And with the model railroading, a lot of the stuff that I'm taking is inspirational. It gets me in trouble being trackside. And I don't know about you guys, but Mike, a little bit more difficult with S scale, and you probably would have to make what you see versus what Andy and I can just go out and buy what we see. But it definitely hurts. It definitely hurts with the wallet. You know, it's like, oh man, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. I wonder if I could find that in HO. And sure enough, you can. And then you end up. So yeah, it's a challenge there. But and as far as model railroad photography, a lot of the principles, again, the big thing is getting low. Like that, if you're going to take away a lesson of model railroad photography, if you're modeling 1940s and you're taking your pictures from up here down, you have a hard sell, right? As to why, what was that perspective? Get low. Take that camera. If you got a phone like me, and I'm old school, I'm still running but see where that camera is up at the top corner? Slide that down the fascia till you just get that camera about the side where a human would be standing, and then take your photograph. So you're going to get that awesome perspective, like you were standing trackside. Get that thing slammed right down onto the layout, past the fascia, lay it down like Andy's. Shoot low, shoot that real low stuff. There's amazing amount of tools. Matt Fricks was showing me yet another one. You know, we've talked about, you know, if you want to enter the world of focus stacking and understand that, look it up.
Yep.
But there's actually apps now that will do it with your phone. That will blast out 30 photos, stack them so you get a nice depth of field in your model photography. So you're not just seeing the nose in focus, you're seeing the whole thing. It will do it for you now. A lot of amazing tools. Do the research. A lot of great model railroad photographers out there, and you see some of them there. That's what they're shooting with. They're using phones. Get the right light. Get low composition. Set up a scene that's believable, that tells a story. You're going to come out with a great photograph.
One of my photos I took of one of the UP trains that we caught. I took it with my camera. I'm sitting there going, I'm not so sure. Andy took it with his phone, and I'm like, that's an awesome shot.
Yeah.
Same photo. His phone compensated better than my camera did. And I'm sitting here going, that's phenomenal. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
You know, and these things have gotten so high tech with pixels and you know, I mean, you have manual
multiple cameras and there's a lot of things.
There's a phenomenal. So
it's just good stuff. It's the phones can do so much now. That's for sure. So, Mike, any closing thoughts here before we tie down for tonight?
No, I just wanted to say, Ray, two things. Number one, it was awesome to finally meet you in person in St. Louis.
Yes.
We had so much fun. That was you're now my St. Louis guy that I'm not gonna want to go anywhere without you around, because we had so much fun. That was just it was a blast. I mean, it's next time we got to drag Andy with us, because we need that third person as the
moderator
for the moderator. Yeah, that's really. Yeah, that's it. But in all seriousness, your photography's amazing. You've taught me a lot in just a short period of time, that when we were sitting at Kirkwood. I mean, that was almost like a mini masterclass into the drone operations and how to do certain things and everything. You really helped me a lot, and I can't repay you and thank you enough for some of the information you've given me and things. And it's like I say, it's what we do in this community, right? It's so the model railroad community and the railroading community, it all kind of comes together, and the camaraderies and things like that. It's phenomenal. So awesome job, Ray, and can't wait to see you again. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
yeah, for sure. We all rise together. That's the whole idea of the whole thing. We all rise together. So
Yeah, very good. So if you've been living under a rock and haven't tuned into Ray's podcast, Around the Layout podcast, you can find them at aroundthelayout.com. And you can pick them up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. They're on YouTube and Amazon Music as well. So make sure that you check them out. They got a cool webpage, lots of cool stuff. And if you want to be a supporter of them too, they do Patreon. And it's really cool to be a part of that operating crew that Ray has there on Patreon. So make sure you check out Ray and his show. And I just want to say thank you again, Ray, for coming on and spending time with us. Fantastic content. What can I say?
It's been an absolute blast, gentlemen. It's always good to spend time with both of you.
Yeah. So, all right, for Mike and myself and the section crew here, thanks again. We're going to be back on in, looks like, a couple of weeks. We're going to be back on our 2-week schedule here. And I think as we tiptoe into August, we're going to be coming back onto Freelance Week. So we make sure you guys are checking out the Second Section Podcast Facebook group, where Mike and I will be highlighting different freelance model railroads throughout the month of August. So keep your eyes peeled for that. So thank you guys, and we will see you all in 2 weeks. Good night, everyone.